What's good, people, man? This is Red Dirt Dialogues, and today we're here with my boy Goldstein. Goldstein, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Doing
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Looking forward to the discourse here.
yeah. Me too, man. I I already knew once I started this. I said, man, I got to get my boy on here, man.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm all about it, man. I like sharing ideas.
yeah. And it's not every day, man. You get to talk with a living Nephilim, man.
Yeah, you know what? You started that shit.
Oh, I started.
You did. You did, man.
Yeah.
But I'm rocking with it. I'm leaning into that. I like it.
Nah, that's good. I My background wasn't supposed to be what it is. Like I got the game with me today. The
Oh yeah. You can
what you
never
call
be too safe.
it? What's this the money game? But the money team. That's what they call it, the money
The
team.
money too.
But yeah, the background was supposed to be it was David killing Goliath, and I was gonna make a joke and say got your family, but I couldn't get it to say told you I'm Boomer Tech, man.
Yeah, enough can't be said about Goliath. He was slipping.
Yeah. He got too prideful. He was talking too much.
That's it. That's it.
So let's start off. So how'd you get the name Goldstein?
From the book 1984.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of it. I know who Goldstein is a little bit, but I don't know all of his characters. So you identify with the character?
Yeah, well, yeah, a little bit. I identify with the idea of it just being a disruptor. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus, it's a good liability shield because if I ever say something too inflammatory and they never actually see me, then they don't really know how to criticize me either.
Oh yeah, man. Okay, now it's starting to make enough sense. One, for your Twitter timeline, I already get. Now you said a disruptor. Now it's making me making me understand how you operate more on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the traditional term would be a troll, but
Yeah.
I'm not really a troll
Mm-hmm.
because I have a specific aim
Mm-hmm.
other than just pissing people off,
Yeah.
you
That's
know?
yeah. Now you're far more intelligent, and I give you that. You're far more intelligent, far more calculating than a regular old troll. Like you said, I can tell. Like from what I see, I would say I can tell you most of the time you're just trying to get people to like stand. Like if you claim this is what you represent, then stand on that logically.
Right,
And so I see a lot of times you'll pull up something like, well, all right, if this is what you believe, then shouldn't you be this way too? Am I
right,
am I correct?
right. The internet is full of shit,
Mm-hmm.
basically, and a lot of people on it are full of shit.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if you're going to represent whatever it is you represent,
Mm-hmm.
then you can't be full of shit about doing that because it's already a toxic environment, especially Twitter. The last thing anybody really needs is for you jumping on and fucking up whatever it is that the people who actually represent that thing got going on.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, one of the things that I've been focusing on lately is the woke right,
Yeah.
and that's because I mean, they garnered that name because they are unprincipled in their
Mm-hmm.
approach to being conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
They adopt a lot of the tactics and techniques and talking points of whom they consider their enemy, the left.
Yeah.
So it's like that's an easy one right there. It's like if
Mm-hmm.
you're conservative, how in the fuck is it that after years of telling everybody that it's not about race, did it all of a sudden become about race when it was convenient for you?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, I don't really give a damn if you're a white supremacist. I just want you to be the best white supremacist that you can be and not
Mm-hmm.
be full of shit.
Yeah. I,
Because
I,
one thing, well, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt
I was just going to say one thing I've noticed is that this is how subversive tactics work. When you have an outside group trying to infiltrate another group, they use these types of subversive tactics. Like they'll put people out there that are supposedly one thing, but they say a whole different thing, not because they're hypocritical, but because there's an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of like what my wheelhouse, that's kind of where I focus the most, is exposing what could potentially be a subversive element within the ranks of other groups of people.
Yeah, I respect that because you kind of, well, you don't remind me of myself. You older than me. You big bro, literally. But now I've always been the type that, like, I respect codes. Like I believe different people groups, men, women, you know, whatever. Like you should have a code. You know, grew up in the hood. There's supposed to be a street code, and it would always bother me so much when dudes would violate the code. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it's a street code or a friend code or goddamn just the man code, like
right.
It annoys me. And like you said, that it should be called out, but then they'll call you they'll turn you into the bad guy just for telling them they're not standing on the business they report to believe.
Facts. People hate the truth more than anything else in this world. Motherfuckers hate the truth, but they also hate being lied to.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I mean, what's really going on, you know? And as a Hotep individual, someone who represents what that word means,
yeah,
I think it's incumbent that people respect and highlight the truth, no matter what the situation is, even if it hurts you, even if it's something you don't want to hear. You got to stand on that, you know?
Yeah. So could you, for the people that don't know, could you tell people what a Hotep is in the best way possible?
A Hotep is a seeker of knowledge, a seeker of truth. Basically, that's what a Hotep is. Someone who's looking for the truth of the matter in all instances of life. You know, there are people far better than me who can explain that in more detail, like Strong Dad, like Hotep Jesus, like Doe Dubes. They can explain this in far more detail than I can. But that's what it essentially boils down to: a seeker of knowledge and a seeker of truth.
Yeah, I can respect that. Yeah. So how long have you been linked up with the Hoteps, would you say? Or have you always been Hotep?
I've always been, in the essence of the word.
Yeah.
I started messing with the guys. I started messing with them when I jumped on Twitter, though. I had been, you know, consuming their content, but from the years of like 2019, the end of 2019 till about the end of 2022, I had no internet presence. I had completely jumped off that motherfucker because I was fed up, you know? And so when Elon bought Twitter, I was like, well, let me fuck around on here again, you know, see what's going on, because this is interesting. And then once I did, that's when I started actually like interacting with them dudes and shit, and got kind of close with them through the internet. But prior to that, like I said, I had, you know, I've always been a seeker of knowledge of self and things of this nature. A lot of that was influenced by the amount of time I did.
Yeah.
But even before that, I mean, shit, I've been, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, I've been red pilled since I was 13, 14 years old, you know, way back in 92, 93.
Yeah. So what was it in 14 that flipped the switch for you?
I saw a documentary on public access TV about black helicopters.
Inform me on that. I don't think I know nothing about that.
Back then, there was the conspiracy theory, and mind you, this was prior to Waco, prior to all that other shit, you know. I saw a documentary that this dude did about how the government was heavily invested in what they were calling black helicopters, like unmarked helicopters that were doing surveillance and would potentially be used as weapons of war against American citizens, and how they were talking about how they were putting little color coded stickers on the back of stop signs that would use that they would be using for troop movements and shit like that. And I was completely blown away that this is the type of shit that would be happening, because I always thought that, the government was supposed to be for us, by us type
Mm-hmm.
shit.
Yeah.
So when I started walking that road based on that documentary, I wish I could I wish I could remember the name of it. But again, it was on public access TV. For those of you who are young,
Mm-hmm.
the internet used to be free and on television,
Yeah.
but the best parts of it were between the hours of 8 at night to 8 in the morning. And it was called public access TV.
And hey, they done probably clean that up from the internet. You can't even find the old 9/11 stuff you used to be able to find so easily.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I was a bit of an outlaw back then anyway, so you know, I guess capitulation to authority was never really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always had a bit of a rebellious spirit, and I think that's kind of what led me down those roads as well.
Yeah. So you said you spent some time. How much time? Like in prison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did you spend in prison?
In total, 21 years and 3 months.
Man, that's a whole kid born, going to graduate high school, going to college. Would you mind going into detail? Like what was your specialty, to say the least? I don't even know what
violence.
Violence. Oh.
Yeah, I was a bit of a knucklehead, and things got stupid one evening, and the rest is history. But
that's that Canadian blood in you. But keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I was drug addicted. I was I'm still in recovery to this day. And so all bets were pretty much off for me, but I was never the type to be sneaky or do any weird shit like that. I was just like, if I wanted something, I'm gonna just take the shit type motherfucker. But I always had a strict code of, I never really fucked with people outside of the game. They were civilians, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was around knocking old ladies in the head for purses. But if you were somebody who was doing it and you were in the game, you were fair game to me as far as I was concerned. And so, things are what they are in that type of lifestyle. And I ended up hurting a couple people pretty bad over it. And do I regret it? To be honest, no, I don't. But it is what it is,
Yeah, I feel. And if y'all wonder why you call him a Canaan, the man is a giant. He's 6'8". Like they don't make niggas like that no more. He probably the last one on the factory line when God made. They don't make him without the tampering. They tampering with the gene pool now, so you never know. But,
man,
I can imagine just seeing you on the block. You run up, I'll be like, bro, you got it. Like, don't even pull the pistol out, bro. You 6'8". God dang.
Yeah. I was a bit of a menace, bro. I was. It was something else back then. I'm glad things have changed for me.
Yeah.
I put a premium on being humble for the most part, and being a peaceful individual for the most part.
Yeah.
I struggle like anyone else, but after years of, anger management courses and sobriety courses and things of this nature, I value things differently now than I did then.
Yeah. So what would you say? Well, if you don't feel like answering this, how was the home life growing up? Did that contribute to the way you turned out in your mid-20s and early teenage years?
Well, I guess it could. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I was adopted.
Okay.
I ended up spending my formative years and all my years as a teenager and shit as the son of a very good woman. She did her best.
Yeah.
And I can't knock it. No one's perfect, but I mean, no situation is perfect. But
true.
Um, I can't really blame any of my upcoming on the decisions that I made for my life going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could leave that up to a psychologist or a
Yeah,
psychiatrist or someone
yeah,
who's into that type of shit. But
yeah,
I know as far as I'm concerned,
yeah.
the decisions I made were based primarily along the lines of the fact that I was a very selfish,
Mm-hmm.
um, self-centered individual who wanted to do things my way and for me and fuck everybody else.
Yeah,
So I put 100% of the blame of everything that I went through on myself, you know?
yeah, yeah. That's respectable. I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate let me see. I see it a lot too with like young males, even when the mother or grandmother, whoever's in our lives, like they seem to when they try their best, even whether it's taking you to church or get putting you in some sports or something, it just gets to that point where we just get rebellious and butt heads and just like you said, we want to do our thing
Right,
like like our own what don't stink.
right,
And sometimes you got to hit your head against that wall. Sometimes more than others. Like me, I consider it a blessing. I would say lucky, but I'm believing no more. But it's been a
right.
blessing to like the stuff I did. I didn't like. I used to drink a lot. I didn't get caught. I didn't get the DUIs. Many of the guys around me. I was with the hood guys, but I never sold the dope. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I'd be kicking in the trap house with them. But I'm just I'm just glad that stuff never happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're a nigga, then you're going to have at least some element of the street in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whether or not you opt into it or not, that's just usually on the individual. But you're going to have some element of that in your life: the trap houses,
Mm-hmm.
the pimps, the hoes, the drugs, shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it takes a strong individual to be able to resist that shit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just one of them things where it's like I can't too much respect people who blame their environment or their situations for the choices that they make. Um, there are some instances where I believe that holds true, but most instances
Yeah.
it's usually just you being an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Nah,
Yeah,
'cause I got some of the homies now they stuck in the where they're not stuck. They choose to be stuck in the drug game, the street life. But a lot of them they came from nice homes. Like some of us had like I know some, both parents still in the home, nice little house. Because some of us we moved from the apartments to like neighborhoods behind the apartments. Like it's a little
yeah,
quieter, but you still could get to the hood if you want to take a little 5-10 minute walk, whatever.
right.
But it was a lot of them like they actually chose the life when they didn't have to, and now they stuck in that vicious cycle, and it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it is crazy. I mean, there is something to be said for a lack of leadership
Mm-hmm.
in those environments. Um, it's not so much that there's a lack of leadership, though. I kind of take that back. It's not so much that it's a lack of leadership. It's just that the leadership that exists,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the proper mandate. They don't have the proper. They're not guiding people in the proper ways
Yeah.
because the leaders are there.
Yeah.
You see it all the time. The
Mm-hmm.
OGs and all the leaders are there, but where are you leading, motherfuckers? Is the question.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that a lot of the outreach that goes back to communities that are crime ridden and poverty stricken and things of that nature. I think that a lot of the outreach has to entail redirecting the people who
Mm-hmm.
have the ears of the majority in a way that is most effective for the community at large.
All right. So,
Instead of just castigating everybody.
yeah. Yeah. So let's say, what would you say would be like if you had to set up a 3 step? What would be the first step you would put into place to change the leadership or change the minds of those in those areas?
First of all, you can't do it in some broad, overarching, and oversweeping way,
Yeah.
right? You have to do it in very small, nondescript ways with the right individuals.
Yeah.
And I believe that it takes whatever it takes to get those people on board. You know, if you got a gang leader, why are
Yeah.
you going to waste your time trying to convince the 50 or 60 individuals under his stead
Mm-hmm.
instead of actually just convincing him?
Mm-hmm.
He already has their ear.
Point. That's a good
But
point.
but for some reason outreach never goes in that direction. They want to make midnight basketball and shit, but
Mm-hmm.
they never really want to respect the hierarchy that exists within the hood.
Yeah.
And I guess to some degree that would be, you know, the people who fund these programs and who are calling for all this sweeping change in the hood and in the culture. I guess that would be for them to admit to some degree that these individuals who they consider thugs and whatnot are actually on the same tier as them.
Yeah.
You know, and that has to do with pride and dumb shit, you know.
Yeah. So I can see you definitely wouldn't go to Umar route where he was like, I'm not gonna be able to psychologize all these niggas on the corner. He said someone's gonna have to go to sleep for good. What do you think about
Yeah.
that? So some
I
Umar gonna have to go to sleep for good.
yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah. Nah,
That's
it's
just
some
the way it is.
some niggas. Nah, I feel you because it's some niggas like they just seem beyond rehabilitation. And like they
Yeah.
just like some niggas just a menace. And like they've been that way since birth. And so like you gotta remove them some way. I ain't saying just go through and start killing niggas, but like I think at some point, if they really wanted to clean up like the inner cities and stuff, like you're gonna have to bring in the army or somebody, a stronger force to put you gotta put the fear of God in folks like that.
Yeah, yeah. Like if you've seen state property, right?
It's been a while since I've seen it. It's been a while.
Well, Beanie Siegel was famous for a line in there saying that if you either get down or lay down.
Oh yeah, I know that line. Yeah, I know the meaning.
Um, we're at that point with a lot of motherfuckers.
Yeah,
That's just the facts.
yeah,
That's just the facts. We're at that point because the bullshit has been allowed to go on for so long, and subversive elements have been allowed to act within the black community for so long and become so entrenched that the only way to actually remove them at this point is a controlled burn.
mm-hmm.
That's just the facts of the matter. And it's not just the black community that's affected with this. Every community is affected with
Yeah,
this.
true.
But history teaches us that if you're trying to reclaim or reestablish what you feel is the right way to do it, at
Mm.
some point, the political option is no longer an option.
Yeah, no,
And I feel like that if everybody, every culture, every group, as it were, in this country decided to focus more in the house
yeah,
and do those controlled burns within the house,
yeah,
we wouldn't have to sit here every day opening up the timeline to see if the Civil War has started.
true.
You know, so
Yeah, I've always been telling people, I'm like, because I think too many people think they are going to be able to save the world or they have to save the world, and it stresses them out. And I'm like, no, you trying to do something only God can do. You need to start, like you said, with your own household. You change your own household. You be the man that your kids and wife need to see and be, and
yeah,
then you be a good light towards your neighbors. So they gonna see that, and hopefully you can put some change in them. And then if once that change, now you don't change not just your neighbor, but your neighborhood, and let the
that's right.
neighborhood change the city, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
But
yeah. You see too many people trying to clean up across the street when
mhm,
there's too much, when there's shit in their yard.
exactly.
You know, so it's one of them things, man. It's like And you learn that in AA, you know, you clean up your side of the street before you help your neighbor. That's just common goddamn sense, though. It's like, you know.
There was wasn't that a song, sweep around your own front door before you try to sweep around mine?
I think so. I think so.
Oh, the old heads knew it, but you know, when the old heads would tell you stuff, you be like, you weren't trying to hear it at the time. Now that I'm older, I'm 36, I'm like, darn, the old heads was right. Even about the music, they were like, that's the devil's music. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. But now you look at it now, you're like, oh shoot, that might have been the devil's music.
Exactly. You know, and people will often wonder, like, okay, one of the things that hoteps get I guess credit, for lack of a better term, credit for is being able to see things before everybody else sees them. But really, what it is that a lot of the hoteps and just conscious people in general, not even using that term hoteps, because consciousness exists everywhere.
Yeah.
Conscious people never forget shit like that. Right? They never forget clean up your own house and shit, right?
Yeah.
So when you see like a personality online constantly trying to get you involved in the process of everything but cleaning up your own shit, chances are it's an op.
Exactly.
You know? And that's why we're able to see it, because it's like, okay, it's one thing to be like, yeah, this is going on. But if your main focus is trying to rally people constantly every day behind what's going on outside of them, then chances are you are no good for the people. Because what's good for the people is a sustained focus on improving themselves and their families first and foremost. Everything outside of that is just noise.
Yeah, that's why I had to block and mute a lot of what we call it woke right. I've had to get rid of them because it's all problems. This is happening, and there's no solutions. And they also, even in a personal life, because you hear, like, you know, what's done in dark comes to the light. Was done, so they're not even living up to what they believe. And it's if you believe in God, family, country, I should go to your timeline to see God, family, and country. I shouldn't see trannies. I shouldn't see homosexual. I shouldn't see, oh, I'm scared of the black man. The black man gonna beat me up at Walmart or Target. Like it come from a thing of weakness, and like I'm getting to the point. I was like, I can't see this. Y'all gonna make me fearful listening to y'all weak behind.
Yeah. And nowhere is that more glaringly obvious than people who follow the Bible, Christianity.
You think so? Elaborate.
Yeah, because the Bible has a certain prescription on how you should handle life, how you should handle interactions with people. It's pretty detailed in that regard. Yeah. Whether you believe it or not, that doesn't matter. If you actually read it, you understand that this is a very detailed book on how people should live their lives according to what the book believes to be true.
Yeah.
Most people, when they have that type of standard that they outwardly say they live up to, it becomes glaringly obvious, if you know the book to any degree, that they're not. And one of the main things that the book tells them, and it's like one of the main precepts that the book tells Christians, is that you have already overcome the world. Correct?
Correct.
So if that's the case, and you believe that, and you're supposed to believe that as a Christian, because the Lord is the one telling you this. If you believe that, then why in the fuck are you constantly waging war against the world?
Yeah.
You're waging a war against this enemy and that enemy and this enemy. We gotta fight the gays. We gotta fight abortion. We gotta fight. You've already overcome the world.
Well, I would say it says Christ has already overcome the world. We're still in the world. We're supposed to be in it, not of it. I think one of the biggest problems with Christianity is that a lot of Christians, I think you mentioned it, don't read the Bible.
No.
So they don't even know. Like, I don't even think they completely know how to operate. Like you don't see a lot. You don't see a lot of like what is it called? Church discipline. As much you see too many women pastors, and I know people will say that's for a certain time. I'm not one of those ones that believe that. I believe, just like I said, I believe one of the biggest problems is just like Adam in the garden, we've abandoned our post as men. And so instead of us being the heads and the leaders that we were called to be, we're just trying to push our responsibilities off on other people. Just like how regular citizens in this country who are nominally Christian, they try to push their responsibilities off on the government. So it's like the same concept, different thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's like one of the biggest beefs, because I guess I'm known for having this beef with Bryson Gray.
Well, how did that start? Because I see it from time to time.
What it is I personally believe, and I could be absolutely way off base and wrong as hell.
Yeah.
But after a long observation period of this dude since 2018 all the way up to today, I've seen a migration in thought with him that, according to the book, is not Christ-like. And since you represent Christ, I'm going to hold you to that standard.
Understandable.
Now he doesn't necessarily believe that I know the Bible. I'm probably far more well versed in that document than he is, because I had 21 years of research.
Yeah.
And not just in it, but in everything that it's offshooted, right?
Yeah.
And so I know what the book says. So when I see him violate those principles, I was always quick to call it out.
Yeah.
Now, if I honestly believe that he was just a wayward Christian, then I would have just left it alone, because I'm not here to judge you based on the book as it pertains to your faith and as it pertains to the faith as a whole. But what I do believe is that he is purposely rebranding Christianity for a very nefarious purpose.
Okay. So would you say it's what he said? Would you say it's what he says that irks you most, or the way he goes about it? If you don't mind.
It's the blatant hypocrisy in the way he goes about it.
Yeah. So it's methodology.
Yeah, because I am of the mindset that there's going to be a very severe brand of Christianity heading our way soon.
Yeah.
Like Dark Ages level bullshit. You know what I mean? But it's just not going to be under the Catholic Church this time. It's going to be under the Protestant version. And when I see this militarization of the Christian mindset, I can't help but think that is the forerunner of it.
Yeah.
So when this is not what Christianity subscribes. You're not supposed to be out there calling gays fags and the rest of that shit. I know it might be fun to do now because you've been given this militarized mindset by the conservative class.
Yeah.
I know that, and you know, they've acted an ass for so long and unimpeded that people feel some type of way about them, right?
Yeah.
But that's for people to do, not Christians, right? That's for people like me to do, not necessarily you.
Because we're supposed to be set apart.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when I see someone who's as God-focused as he is start to help aid in that movement towards this militarized mindset, I have to think either one of two things. Either you're not quite knowing what the fuck you're doing and you need to be redirected, or you know exactly what the fuck you're doing, and that makes you, in my eyes, an enemy of the state.
Yeah.
Because you're corrupting something that has existed on this planet for over 2,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably shouldn't do that. You probably should leave that alone. And because of his close political ties that he forged through the whole Trump is your president phenomenon, I can't help but wonder how many subversive elements have been in his ear over the years telling him that this is the way you need to go. Now, I'm not saying he's a witting participant in this. What I am saying is that he's surrounded himself with a bunch of people because of his political affiliation early in his career.
Yeah.
That not only has they've not only usurped the MAGA movement, but I believe they also have designs in usurping other things as well.
Yeah.
And so, again, these are the things I point out. Goldstein, right?
Yeah.
This is what I do, and that's where my beef with him comes from. It's not personal. So I don't know the dude.
So there's no real animosity for Bryson. It's just that you wish he would change the way he goes about things. Yeah.
If he were to do that, I guess repent, as he would call it, and walk the straight path, that'd be great for him. That'd be great for his followers. Most important. Yeah. That's where my beef with him comes from, though. And it's just that if you really focus on the climate, this is what has given rise to Christian nationalism, which is the last thing anyone wants to see. You know?
I don't even know if that's. I've been struggling with that because I don't even know if that's biblical either. Like, but I understand the need. I mean, the feeling of the need for it. But just going back to what you said with you feel the way it's moving to the right. I've been like I'm McGraw Hill educated, and so I'm just now learning a lot of stuff. I'm doing a little my own research on like World War II, and I get a little history lesson from different people on the internet, and I'm like, man, we always overcompensate on something and mess something up, even in like school systems and stuff. And then even I was thinking like that's how Hitler got into power. Like we try to overcompensate for the degeneracy that was going on, and instead of moving at level, humans we seem to either go too far right or too far left. And so I relate to what you're saying. Like I'm trying to figure out like how can I just as one person try to make sure that the people I come in contact with don't go too far left or too far right.
Yeah. It's my understanding that Satan, as it were, is not a degenerate. Satan is an angel who thought he could do the job of God better than God. But for some reason, we get this picture of the devil as this degenerate, evil, degenerate individual who is totally 180 from God. And we don't know that to be the case. There's nothing that actually paints him as that. Right? For all we know, he could believe everything that God believes, but he just feels he can do a better job at ruling than God.
Yeah.
So with that being said, now you can view evil, as it were, as simply a tool that he uses to get to that point.
Yeah.
And so when you see everyone devolve into degeneracy, I don't think that's Satan's end game. He just wants everybody out there fucking and doing drugs and doing all kinds. I don't think that's his end game. His end game is to rule over humanity.
Yeah.
And so why not use evil and degeneracy and all that other shit as a tool? So that way you can really deceive people into thinking that anything that destroys that is the way to go.
Yeah.
And then he just simply places himself at the helm of that thing that can destroy all of what you've seen and felt by way of evil and degeneracy.
Yeah. Which do you think is more dangerous? Like blatant degeneracy or self-righteousness? The type that like it parades as better than what it actually is. You know what I mean?
I think that's it. I think that's it right there, because the self-righteous person is a lot more, it's a lot harder to convince that person that they're on the wrong path than someone who can actually see and touch and taste and smell the decay of a degenerate lifestyle. You know, because I lived a degenerate lifestyle for a long time, into drugs, into sleeping around, and there's, no matter how you wrap that up, whether you're a bum in an alley or whether you're Diddy, there's going to be a certain level of decay that you feel when you engage in that lifestyle. You can't really hide that. You see it. But the person who's self-righteous, they're completely hidden from that decay. It's more of a spiritual thing with them. It's not outward. And so they're unaware of the level of evil that they're contributing in. They've actually turned evil into good. And that's probably the worst path that you could walk.
Hearing you speak, you know what you remind me of? You know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of Jesus when he was, you know, preaching his ministry, and his biggest opponents were the Pharisees, the guys who claimed to be the religious. He was like, because he even told me, like, if you're clean, then you don't have no need for the need for a doctor. Only the sick need a doctor. Because you know, he was saying, and they would get mad at him for being around prostitutes and tax collectors. And I think people on some level need to stay in tune with that. Like, you need to have an element of that in your life as a reminder, like why you do it in the first place. If it is if what you're trying to do is establish good and righteousness, you need to have an element of that around you at all times to some degree. Otherwise, you'd forget the mission, you know? I think that's probably why I still inside, like I stay in the gated community now. I don't work hard. I'm tired of, you know, having to worry about my
that's that boule shit.
Hey, that came out the strength of my own back. But
I hear you. I ain't
go to I dropped out of college, but like I still rock with my boys from the hood. I just don't like do some of the stuff they do. I still like some of that hood, you know, stuff. I like either the hood stuff or the redneck stuff, just down and dirty stuff. I don't know. I think that's why I still gravitate towards that.
Yeah, man. Keeps you grounded, keeps you humble, you know. A lot of the things that are necessary to continue to live a constructive life. You know, once you lose, we've seen with all these celebrities and shit, we've seen how far people go off the reservation when they've got money, when they've got, you know, resources and affluence, when they've got that type of shit. We've seen how far that can decay. And it's not a good look. All you got to do is just look at Epstein. You know, so, I mean, shit, no matter what, and I've often said this on the timeline when people get to talking about the blacks, no matter what you say, as bad as potentially being shot in a Taco Bell parking lot is, it's nowhere near as bad as what Epstein was doing.
Boom. True.
So,
but if you attribute that to a certain, if you attribute it to white culture, they'll attribute the parking lot stuff to black culture. But if you attribute that to white culture, one, they'll probably say, "Oh, he was Jewish," so they throw everything on the Jews. I'm not saying Jews aren't guilty of anything, but I notice like a lot of the white conservatives, they don't want it. They want to take all the good blame for, you know, stuff that's going on in Western society. But when it comes to the bad stuff, it's always either the Jews' fault or it's somebody else's fault. They don't like to take, you know, credit for their own stuff.
But all the credit, none of the blame.
Exactly.
And I don't really believe that there's a white violence and a black violence. I just play that game with people who tend to play it against us.
True, same way.
You know, so I'm like, listen, if there's a black violence, if that exists, then the laws of physics dictate that there has to be a white one. Right? There has to be. What does that look like? Well, if you're going to peg it as something, I would say a good starting point is World War One and World War Two.
Exactly.
And if you just take the body count from those two wars, just that
Yeah.
ain't coming down out of the rafters. That record will stand forever. You know, that's making Pookie and them look like minor leagues.
Yeah, that's child's play.
Right.
Or even if you add the all the operations the FBI, the CIA has committed in this country on its own citizens and outside of this nation, from coups to over. I was finding out recently, I was like, y'all caused a coup over sugar. Like that's crazy. Like, man, it's wild what I'm learning now.
Yeah, man. It's one of them things. It's like, and the further down that rabbit hole you go, I suppose, the more you realize that there's no such thing as white violence, black violence. There's just evil and good.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to walk people there, and a good way to do that is by humbling them when they get to stepping out of line, talking about, oh, look at all this moral decay in the cities.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, well, you know, I can't tell you what to think, but I would tell you that you probably should worry less about the moral decay of the black community and a little bit more about other things.
Yeah, it's wild. I think would be better if people could, like, if we could see that like you said, the filthiness in ourselves, and we try to legislate, you know, like, you can, I guess, legislate morality in a way, but at the end, it's a heart issue. Like, it's not like, even with the guns, it's not that the guns are dangerous, although guns are dangerous. It's the heart of the user. A gun is just a tool. So it doesn't matter. Like, Cain killed Abel with a rock. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think we focus too much on laws and adding more laws when we should just be they should be reduced, but focus on enforcing the laws we do have. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect thing to do. We already have the existing laws, and another thing is, people really need to understand something about law. Yeah. And I think this was kind of like a psyop on people to some degree, but for some reason, people tend to think that laws prevent crime.
Yeah.
Laws are not even constructed for that purpose, let alone serve it.
Yeah.
Laws are constructed as a deterrent for you know, not even for the most part, but they are constructed as a deterrent for crime. But they're definitely not preventative. Exactly. But the main reason for law is so that people have recourse for when the inevitable happens of someone breaking that law.
Exactly.
So when there is a murder, there's recourse for the victims of that murder, recourse for society as a whole by the punishment.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think for some reason people have been psyoped into believing that the law will actually prevent the crime. That's never been the case in the history of humanity.
Yeah.
Right? If humans were bold enough to break God's law, then Congress don't stand a chance.
Nah. And then we have like thousands of laws on the books, when like God, he's like, all right, here's 10 laws. Well, 10, moral laws. I won't go into the dietary stuff, but like, if you could just respect these 10, everything would be, well, if you could respect the 1 and 2, where it's like no idols, and then, well, I go to Jesus' law. No God before, and then also love your neighbor as yourself, because the rest of it's covered under, you wouldn't covet your neighbor's wife, you wouldn't steal, you wouldn't kill, like everything would be straight. But
exactly.
Humans, man, we're foolish creatures, man. It's crazy. As much like brilliance that can be found in humans, we do a lot of foolishness. It's wild.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest problems is we tend to overcomplicate shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tend to start thinking that we know better, and therein lies the overcomplication of things, because nature's pretty straightforward and simple. Right? You have to eat, You have to shit. You have to make kids. You have to stay clean.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
basically. You
Right?
avoid all the disease and all that once you stay clean.
Right. And you want to stay alive long enough to be able to procreate so that they can stay alive long enough to be able to procreate. And it's an ongoing cycle. But that's basically it. That's pretty much all people need. Food, shelter, the ability to procreate, and the ability to stay healthy. And then we start adding all kinds of other shit like, well, you know, I want the ability to tell this person across the street to do what the fuck I want them to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not what you're supposed to be here doing. So it's just, I don't know. It's a never-ending story. It's the human condition. But at the end of the day, I mean, life ain't hard. Life is not hard at all.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things doing all that time taught me. It's just life is not hard, man. It's very basic.
So I'm just sort of like, because you mentioned time, like what were some of those things that you learned in prison that like, because I know there's a code in prison as well. What were some of those things that you learned in there that helped you move on once you got out? Because I know some people they learn how to be worse criminals in prison and then get out, but you've since turned your life around.
I'd have to say that the biggest lesson that I was taught in prison, and the one I probably needed to learn the most, is that whether you like it or not, by hook or by crook, you're gonna listen to some fucking body.
Yeah.
That was always my biggest thing, is I'm not listening to no fucking body. I know better. I know what's best for me. I'm going to do this my way. And I don't think people should completely lose that.
Yeah.
But prison will help you refocus on where that's applicable and where it ain't. And that's probably the biggest takeaway I got from prison, is that you're going to listen to some fucking body, whether you like it or not. It's always better to do it as easily and as stress-free as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody, when you're younger, tells you, you know, you're going to end up in prison or dead. If you're on the wrong road, you've heard that at least one time in your life. And you ain't even listening to them. You're like, man, I got this. I know better. I got this.
Yeah.
You know, and so already once you end up in prison, you should already be saying to yourself right then, maybe I should listen a little bit more to what people are telling me. But once you get to prison, you ain't got no choice but to listen to them motherfuckers.
Yeah.
It's either listen to them or have an extraordinarily hard time for however many years you got to be there. You know? And they micromanage the fuck out of you in a lot of ways. They make you walk around with your shirt tucked in, with your ID on. You have to be in this spot at this time, no exceptions. You know, and those are the types of things that I think a lot of people like myself need.
Yeah.
But even then, you still kind of kick against it and you buck against it. And I think that time and growing older and more mature is what helped me learn that lesson. But I think that also I probably wouldn't have learned it to the degree that I have had I not been in prison that whole time. Like if I would have tried to learn that out here, I probably would have been on the other side of that equation, which was dead. You know?
Yeah. So did the guards or the prisoners have to give you some act right?
On a number of occasions.
On a number of occasions. Do you think being 6'8" contributed to that? Like being big, like you was just like, man, can't nobody, you know, but you know, when they come in groups like ants, then it's different.
Nah, I think I would have had the same mentality at 5'8". You know what I mean? I'm stubborn, and and I had a lot of anger
Yeah.
issues,
Yeah.
and so I'm always looking to fight and get into shit. And I guess I don't think I've really even changed in that regard. I've just changed what I fight for.
Yeah.
And so I've just kind of integrated that mentality into a more constructive area.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't beat it out of me. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
But it's just I've learned to, okay, if I want peace of mind and if I want peace in my life, I've got to take this mindset that I have and integrate it into more productive ways.
True.
This is why I'm constantly fighting on Twitter.
Yeah.
But I'd rather be there doing it than in the streets.
Nah, it makes sense. You're married, right?
I am.
So did getting married play any part in helping you getting your life turned around? Or just
getting married? Getting married.
My bad.
She helped me turn a lot of other things around. But I would have never had an opportunity to be as fortunate as I am in this relationship had I not turned that aspect of myself around first.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of growth. And I think as a reward for that growth, God saw fit to give her to me,
Yeah.
There was no way I'd be ready for any of this had I still been even remotely close to the motherfucker I was before.
Yeah. I like that you said, go ahead. Finish what you said.
I was just going to say, but she helped me grow in other areas where I didn't even know I needed it.
Yeah.
So.
I like that you said God gave her, because I say the same thing. I was like, man, when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, God, he had to put her in my life because I was just chasing the wrong type of women. And then like you said, you had the wrong attitude. So if you change the wrong women, had the wrong attitude, all that stuff, it always leads towards quote unquote destruction, just bad times, and it sucks. But she had a different temperament than what I saw in other women I was dating. Like she was more selfless than any woman I ever been with. And so that's what attracted me to her because she knows this. And I tell people, like, I was just trying to get some. Like when I first got with her, I was just trying to get some. But I'm like, darn, there's something different. There's something special about this one. And I realized how selfless she was. She'd always put me first over her. And I noticed that. And of course, there was some bumps and bruises. We weren't perfect. We grew together. And now, man, things it's such a blessing. She's giving me 2 kids, and I wouldn't trade this in for anything in the world.
No, not at all, man. And listen, when I first got with her, it was rough at first because I still had a lot of dog in me, and I fucked around on her. Not actually, just online bullshit.
Yeah.
And because the girl I fucked around with, I never even met. I was just, but this was like our first year, and we weren't even married at the time. And so I'm fucking around over here and yada yada. And that was the first time when she found that out that night. That was the first time that hurting somebody that I gave a fuck about actually mattered to me.
Yeah.
And I know that's a fucking weird way to look at it, but that's when I knew she was the one.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I didn't fuck that off.
Yeah.
And she stuck with me, and we worked through that shit, and I've been solid as a rock ever since. But that's one of them things that, like I said, she taught me about myself, some shit that I didn't even really know. That's just one aspect of that. It's like prior to that, I got my moms, and I love my moms and shit, but hurting them never really meant shit to me. I know going to prison hurt him. I know being a junkie hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't give a damn. It was like, whatever. I mean, you'll get over it type shit.
Yeah.
Whatever. This is my life. I'm gonna do what I want. But seeing her face that night broke me in a way that I had never, ever experienced before.
Mm.
And I said to myself then, this will never happen with anybody I love, especially her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she gave me that experience, helped me gain a certain level of loyalty to the people who care about me and the people that I claim to care about.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me another level of loyalty that I didn't even think I cared about, but I do now, and that's one of them things, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. It ain't crazy, but that's the exact same. When I said up and downs, that's the exact same thing that happened to me. And like you said, just seeing the pain, like she didn't talk to me for like 3 or 4 days, and then she finally came. I can't remember where she met me, but she met me. She was crying, and I'm like, darn, this is all my fault. Because at first, she was blaming herself. I'm like, it ain't nothing you did. Like you just no. Like I'm one of those people that don't believe nobody can force you to cheat or talk to anybody. Like that's a willing choice. But like you said, like I realized like, oh crap, I'm about to lose the best thing that's ever happened to me at that point. And I was just like, yeah, I don't want to lose that for like just a fun fling or whatever you call it. And
Right.
So that's one of the things that helped turn me around. And then like getting sober. She's been with me through my drinking phase. I remember when I got sober, we were over my mom's house, and both my mom and her both said how they were praying for me. They didn't tell me this before while I was drinking, but they just mentioned it was like they basically like, man, I've been praying for the day you quit because I believe in generation curses. That stuff get passed down. A lot of my grandparents, my granddads, not my grandmas, they cool, but my granddads, they were alcoholics, and both of them died fairly young. It was just
Yeah, man. We got to be very careful, bro. We got to be very careful, man. Um, the level of responsibility that you can have over another person's well-being, whether right or wrong, but the level of responsibility that you can have is amazing. And I don't have any children. You do. So you know even an even deeper level of responsibility for someone's well-being. And it's just like I learned it just through that. Like her emotional well-being was that disturbed because of some dumb shit that I thought in the moment was the right thing to do. So that's something that we have to be mindful of at all times. And that's just the people, and especially with us fucking around on the internet the way we do.
Yeah.
There are people out there that we probably never meet, but we carry even a small bit of responsibility to those people. And you just got to be mindful of that shit. And the best way to do that is if you are always conducting yourself and your business in the way that you know it should be, you'll never have to worry about disrupting that.
Yeah. What made me realize that I was about 19, 20. No, wait, I was already drinking then. So I was probably like 21, 22. And this is my second Twitter account, the one that you follow now. My first one, it was big too, but it was because I used to write. I like to write. I need to get back to doing it. But I used to write. It's gonna sound crazy. I used to write erotica, like sex stories, and like I would just make them up. I find some inspiration in a song and then just like elaborate. And I used to do that on Twitter, and like it was crazy. Like every Thursday, I would get on there and write a story, just make up a story from scratch. And my Twitter account blew up, and I made it around like 21K, at the time.
Right.
And a lot of people were sharing me and following it, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because people were getting to know me that around the world. But I remember seeing one of my friends, his cousin, had tweeted how she was like, I'm embarrassed to say that she was probably like 13, talking about she's embarrassed to say that she likes my stories. And that was the first time I was like, oh crap, I didn't even think about freaking 13 and middle schoolers, like I mean, and high schoolers, young high schoolers reading my stuff
Right.
and being affected by it. So that was the first time I was just like, oh crap, like I can't just be putting all this crazy stuff out there because I'm an
Right.
influence on people around me.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And look, if you don't have the philosophy of anybody whose feelings or sensibilities that I run over deserves to have them that way, if you don't
Hmm.
have that mentality, then the best thing to do is just remain offline.
Yeah, nah, that's
You know,
true.
because there's some people out there like I'm not a motherfucker that most people can digest.
Hmm.
Right? I'm very offensive.
Yeah,
I'm very straightforward. I'm not the you know, I have a very foul mouth.
yeah.
So I know that's going to offend some people.
Hmm.
And but I'm like this: if this offends you, in spite of the fact that for the most part I'm talking about some righteous shit, if you're
Hmm.
offended by that, though, I don't know what to tell you. I
Yeah,
don't care. You probably need to be offended.
true, true.
So that's a double edged sword, and it's a very
Yeah,
tight rope. It's a
yeah.
very tight rope to walk.
Uh-huh.
But at the end of the day, it's just really about your motivations
Yeah.
and what it is you put out there in the ether. You got to know that even if it is for righteousness, if it offends, it can
Mhm.
still come back and bite you in the ass. You're still going to have to answer for that to some degree. You just got to be prepared and know that that's what's happening.
Hmm. I would say I know I can digest your character because like I don't know how I come off. I can't tell how I come off on Twitter unless people tell me. But my real personality, like the one I'm trying to get rid of, I'm an a-hole. Like I can be an a-hole. I don't know if I come off like that on Twitter, but I can be. My mom knows she'll tell you.
Yeah.
And so, but even when I'm not being, I attract what people say. I'm talking about likable a-holes. Like not the person that's just a jerk for saying be the jerk. It's just other people that might rub other people wrong. So like you, no offense, but I would call you a likable a-hole. Like you're well intentioned, you mean well, but like you said, you can rub people. You can rub people the wrong way, even if it's the for the right reasons. But like I attract a lot of people like that. That's my God given gift, and like I enjoy it. Tell you the truth.
Yeah. And I personally see you as the likable a hole, but
Oh,
I
appreciate
see
it.
the reason I fuck with your content and the reason I fuck with you and have fucked with you is because you're a breath of fresh air for everything else that goes on that fucking app.
Mm-hmm,
You know, I look towards your content for humor,
mm-hmm,
for family oriented shit, for wholesomeness to some degree.
mm-hmm.
Um, and that's why I follow you. Because if you look at my account, I don't follow too many people. I don't
Yeah.
even think I follow 200 people.
Okay.
Everybody I follow is because they offer something to my day,
Yeah.
and that's what you bring to my day is the breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Like you're not always on some fucking politics. You're not always on some hotep shit. You're not always on some some other shit. Like
Yeah.
you're just a breath of fresh air. You bring like your food, the
Mm-hmm.
shit you be posting, the shit you post about your family. That's the shit I like to see from you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I tune in for. Um, and you and a few other individuals that I follow like that. Um, but yeah, that's what and that's why I fuck with Unc.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Because
like that's hilarious.
even though Unc be on one
Yeah.
about all the other shit,
Yeah. Yeah. I know what
but
you mean.
but he'll post them ramen outings with his daughters.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I watch when he does the little drives to the store
Yeah.
and shit
Yeah. Yeah.
because I like that perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just like when seeing people live their lives, and if they tap in with politics and all, that's cool. But
Mm-hmm.
I just like seeing people living their lives and just life developing. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's what made me. That's kind of like how you said my timeline is now. That's in it's. I'm trying to become more intentional, but that's intentional now because I'm trying to be the anti woke right, but not to the left. I'm trying my best to be to the right, but in a godly way. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
it's not enough just to talk about evil. I want to show love and family and, like I said, food. Everybody loves food. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to be that. That's another reason I started the podcast, because anybody can get on here. Well, not anybody, but a lot of people get on here and then they they get involved with the politics or whatever, and then it just becomes all negative in a way. But I'm like, I don't think it has to be that way. Like, let's get on here. All right, there's a training problem or a gay agenda or whatever. But let's try to show some of these, like, have some kids, freaking go outside and do some hunting. Like, I think what I'm trying to do is be more helpful. I don't think a lot of that stuff that's being promoted from the right is helpful, unless you're trying to make a bag. But what's
Facts.
that?
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, shit. Like, I'll tell you a quick story.
All right.
At the beginning of 2021, when COVID was kind of like at its peak, was it 2021? Wait. No, 2022. I had already joined Twitter. I joined Twitter in 2022 or 2022 December. So this was at the beginning of 2023.
Okay.
My bad. COVID was like, we're in the midst of that shit. It was tough. And then that train derailment happened in East Pennsylvania or East Palestine.
East Palestine, yeah.
It was around that time that I was so bogged down in the bullshit that I had, I guess, what could be considered a mental breakdown.
Okay.
And so my mental breakdowns don't necessarily look like the kinds you typically associate with the crying and the freaking out. Nah, my mental breakdown looked more along the lines of, fuck this, I know how to fix this bullshit. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And of course, I had my wife, and she talked me off that ledge.
Yeah.
And she gave me a perspective at that time about how she watched my descent into that madness that I wasn't quite aware of.
Okay.
So as a result of that, I don't think that I will ever be able to fall back into that madness, because there were a lot of things that were happening with me that I wasn't aware of that I am aware of now. So I know the patterns. I know the thinking patterns that led me to that spot.
Yeah.
But that is when I made a conscious effort to try and stay as grounded in life as I possibly could. And I do not live up to that standard a lot. But it's right. But it's a standard that I have now that I didn't have before. And so to see the wholesome content like yourself and things of that nature does more for me than anyone who produces it could ever imagine.
Yeah.
Because that's the type of shit that a person like myself needs. And my hope is that other people can come to that realization for themselves if they find themselves being too bogged down mentally or spiritually in the goings on of all the shit that's happening in the world today. I guess the saying would be touch grass.
Touch grass, yep.
Yeah. I desperately needed to do that.
Yeah.
And I have been making it a conscious effort to do that ever since. So, that's why I'll have an appreciation for yourself and people who produce like you do. I'll have an appreciation for you guys that you guys will never know,
Yeah. I'm glad you like that's what I do it for. Like, no lie. Like, Of course, Elon paying me now. the double digits. I'm two, what they call it, a two-figure earner. But
Nice.
no, it's I know I can't change the world, but I was like, man, if I could change one, like just one life, you know what I mean? Like that's like saving a life. And you're actually, man, your words mean a lot to me. Like I I would like to get paid, but like nah, the money is not. It's not my motivation. Like it's being able to be a light to other people, and other people basically we feed off each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's one
Right.
thing I do like about Twitter is like the community. We've all come around each other. We've been able to connect and just growth. That's why a lot of stuff I had to block or mute because if it's like you said, you consume too much of it, it'll bring you down. I don't think I've ever gotten to where I've had a mental breakdown, but I was realizing I was getting very angry. I was starting to get angry a lot, and I'm like, that's not even who I feel I am. And
Right.
I'm like, something shouldn't bother me that much. That's another reason I had to stop going to the comment sections of stuff I knew I was going to disagree with because you'll start seeing the way you think like this is stupid. Don't you know this? Da 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 da. And I think that to myself, and then I'd be angry, and it just wasn't any good for me. Then it affects the way I post. Now I'm more cynical, where I feel I should be more hopeful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I don't have any reservations that the systems of man will work out. So my cynicism lies there.
Yeah.
Like all this government shit, none of this shit is going to last. None of this shit is going to work because it was never meant to.
True. True.
But you can't let that notion cloud your perception on how actual life works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Just because the United States government may not be here in 10 years doesn't mean life is over. It just means this system of governance is over.
Yeah.
And we get too bogged down in thinking that this is life.
Mm-hmm.
This ain't life. Back to what I was saying earlier, life is just, basically four things. That's life.
Mm-hmm.
And if ain't nothing really fucking with those four things for you and your family, then there's really no reason to be at war over every goddamn thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree with you about not trusting these systems. Like that's something I've been contemplating maybe over the last year because I'm like, man, we're in this system. And it's all right. Like the whole, how people always condemning capitalism or socialism. I'm like, all of these things I think would work if man wasn't sinful, but man is sinful. So we always find a way to corrupt everything we do. And it can start with well intentions and good motives and whatever, but eventually, people get lazy and they push the responsibilities off on other people. Some people at the top or whatever get a little greedy and they start putting roadblocks in the way of other people, and then at the end, it just all deteriorates, and it happens every time, and it's going to happen to the end of time. I believe.
Yeah, that's our lot in life.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how life is constructed. You ain't even really got to be a religious person to see that. Things are born, they thrive, and then they die.
Mm-hmm.
Just like anything physical, same with ideas.
Yeah.
And all these political ideas, they're born, they have a time, they thrive, and then they die.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new ideas come in and take their place. So I think another one of the big psyops that was perpetrated on people is thinking that this is actual life, that this system of government, this way, what do they call it? Way of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's actual life. That's never been the case. It's never been the case. Yeah.
We saw that American Dream, and that was the dream. Like that was a dream. I came out of that coming out of college when I started watching. That's when I started, getting in touch with the whole truth movement, and then I discovered folks like like Alec Jones and stuff like that. Then I'm like, man, this whole American Dream thing was a setup. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. It exactly was. It exactly was, man. It's just the government takes self-evident shit and imposes itself on it in order to lend itself credibility, you know? And that's all America ever was. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, America's central core idea is freedom, but freedom doesn't actually exist, or at least not to the degree that they would have you believe that it
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
Um, but here we are fighting for a principle of a thing that doesn't exist. That should actually be a red flag to you off the rip.
Yeah.
That this idea is on some bullshit. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But people eat it up. They eat it up. They eat up the notion. There's no freedom. The
Mm-mm.
only thing that exists in nature is might is right.
Mm-hmm.
The strong will rule over the weak.
Mm-hmm.
Those are principles that are time tested, and there's a significant amount of evidence that proves that that is true. So you can say, "Oh, I have freedom in America," but why?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have freedom in America? Because someone
Allows it.
allows it. You see what I'm saying?
And if
and
go ahead, go ahead.
just as quick as they allow it, they cannot allow it.
Mm-hmm.
Then what do you have?
Because you think you own your home, but eminent domain exists. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
You think you own your
So
money, and then they cut off your bank account. So it's not.
precisely. You know, you have freedom as long as you fucking play by their rules,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not really freedom. That's just that's a disguise.
It's an illusion.
You know? Yeah. So, you know, it's just one of them things. And again, I learned this at a very young age. So I've kind of, you know, been molded by it like Bane.
Yeah. You inherited. I mean, you didn't inherit the darkness. You were molded by. You were born in
Right. Right. Yeah. But yeah, man, I don't know. Just, I got to say, though, you got to keep doing what you're doing, man, because people rely on it. If you didn't know that, people do. I'm one of the people. So,
Yeah, you're the
you know.
second person to tell me that, and I appreciate it. I'm gonna keep, even if it was just y'all too. I'm gonna keep doing it. But you know that also, that's why I'm conflicted now because I see a lot of people on Twitter mostly, and they're like, "Don't share your kids' pictures," and then so I said because I understand what they're saying. They're like, "Oh, don't share pictures because a pedophile might jerk off to it or whatever, whatever." And so I got to sitting there thinking to myself while I was at work. I'm like, all right, is that a just like because I know I'm like, all right, I know for the most part the crowd is wrong, and this seems to be a large crowd, so they're probably so I'm like, how would Satan twist that? Like if I'm like if Satan is involved, how would he twist it? So I'm like, yeah, if I don't share my kids' pictures, or just like share pictures of family, then nobody sees it, and then they start to thinking, all right, nobody's having kids, nobody's having fun with their kids that they do have, and I'm like, should I? So I don't think I should be ruled by fear of what I don't know. Like, yeah, a pedophile may do something, but they also may not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the type of thinking that if you really carry it out to
Mm-hmm.
its ultimate end,
Mm-hmm.
well, then you shouldn't really be bringing your kids to Walmart because there's God knows who in there looking at them thinking to themselves,
Yeah,
oh, wow. And then they go home with that. So,
exactly.
I mean, you can't live in fear over what could happen. That's
Mm-hmm.
a dumb way to live life on any level for any
Yeah,
reason, you know?
yeah. And I don't. Too many people are being. Everything's being controlled by fear. Not saying I don't have any fears. You know, that's why I started this because I was being ruled by fear, and I was like, I gotta get out of that. That's the reason I was at a job for 10 years that I didn't enjoy. That's the reason I was at my last job for 2 years and I didn't enjoy it because I was allowing myself to be ruled by fear. And I had a dream, or I have a dream that I feel like God has put on my heart. So I'm like, let me god dang go towards that. Let me do that. And yeah, I'm gonna make some money on the side. I'm doing these odd jobs and whatnot, but I'm not being ruled by fear now. And yeah, fear, like even today, fear, popped up in my head, in my heart. And I made sure I prayed. I read my Bible. I played some worship music. I was just like, I gotta get my head in the right space because I know what my why is. It's just that sometimes we can't see the end from the beginning. We stuck in the middle somewhere. And I
Right.
think being me realizing like, darn, I don't know where the heck I'm going. I don't know where this road leads to. I was beginning to fear again, so I had to get myself out of that situation.
Yeah, yeah, man. Fear is the enemy of joy, bro. It's
Hmm.
the enemy of joy, man, and it's just it's kind of a wasted emotion in the first goddamn place.
Hmm.
Because what the fuck can you do? Like,
Exactly.
worst case scenario happens. It's not like you can prevent the shit.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I guess a good way to do fear, because it's something that we all have, and I don't think fear is the problem. I think the the misallocation of it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the best way to do fear, though, is to use that fear that you have of failing people, of failing yourself.
Hmm.
Use that fear as motivation to
Hmm.
not do those things.
Yeah.
But fear of the unknown, as it were, of things that are external,
Yeah.
that's just what you're wasting time doing that.
Hmm. Man, I'll tell you two people that have been a motivation to me. This is gonna be this is the third podcast. This is the third time I mentioned him. Hotep Jesus. He's been helpful. Listening to his stuff. And another guy named Tim Ross. He was a former pastor. He does a podcast now where they
Right.
both basically in a way said they was like, if you're scared, you just do it scared. Like whatever you got in your heart and you're afraid to do it scared. Just start.
Yeah.
Just do it. And that's what I'm trying to get over. Because man, I think when I was young, I was more of a people pleaser. Because you don't want them to be upset at you or whatever. And that's been a big hindrance to me. So now I'm getting to the point where I'm like you said earlier, where you got to tell them the truth, whether they like it or not. No
Right.
matter, even if it hurts their feel. Like I try to say it in the best way possible, but I have to tell people how I feel, regardless of the outcomes. And plus, I think another thing that was a problem with me is I would assume the outcome before I even told the person, and then me assuming would make me not do it. When most of the time, when I say what I need to do, be said, it doesn't go the way I thought it would go in my head. It actually goes better than I expected.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Like, you can expect one thing and it turns out completely different in a better way. So
Hmm.
that's why it's just like wasted to be like, damn, should I not type shit. Caution is always a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Fear is hardly ever a good thing,
Hmm.
you know. And the only difference between the two is caution is just I call it calculated fear.
Yeah, yeah,
That's it. It's fear, but you're conscious. You're conscious and you're calculated. Like,
yeah,
this could happen. That's all. That's all. Being cautious is calculated fear.
yeah.
Fear is irrational. Caution is rational. You know.
Mm-hmm. I had to tell my son that he asked me, that was probably a month or two ago. He asked me, he was like, "Are you afraid of anything?" And in my head, I'm thinking, like, where did you get the impression that I wasn't afraid of anything? But I'm like, yeah,
Right.
like it happens. But it's just like if you and your wife in bed sleeping and you hear a window break, a level of fear is gonna rise in your heart. But you realize, okay, that now there's a duty. I have to protect my household and my wife. I have to get up,
Right.
and now you're gonna be cautious as you go seek out whatever that noise is. And if there's somebody in the house, you may have to defend it. And not saying you wouldn't be afraid, but you realize, okay, I have a duty now, and I have to stand on business, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's a perfect analogy for caution versus fear.
Hmm.
You know, fear would paralyze a motherfucker. They wouldn't even be able to get out of the bed. Like, I'm not going to see that. I don't. I'm scared. You
Hmm.
know.
or they'll put their life
Caution,
away.
right? Caution, though. Caution is like shit. I'm scared, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that is a perfect analogy for the difference between caution and fear.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of the political movements and shit today operate out of fear. That's like my biggest evidence for that, is because they are always talking about what they're scared of, but they're paralyzed because they never actually do anything to fix it.
Yeah.
So.
And they know it'll get them paid. That's the reason Trump can get tens of millions of dollars in a day, because they put into the base that, hey, I'm in the way of you. If they get me out of the way, then it's you next. And so he makes himself look like a martyr, but he's not a real martyr. Like, to me, I say a real martyr doesn't fear death. Any man you fear death, you're not sold on your belief. I know that might sound crazy, but you're not sold on your belief enough. You're not willing to die for it. And I know everybody thinks that, and not saying I'm as a Christian, you promise persecution in some way or form. And so even oftentimes I think, I'm like, man, Lord, if that comes, give me the strength, because our natural instincts is for self-preservation. But if we're supposed to stand on business, on God, on our principles, then I want to have the strength to do it. But I know I can't do that in myself. I got to rely on strength given to me by God. But I'm kind of rambling now. I don't even know where I'm going with
that. Nah, man. Yeah. Hey, it's crazy how fucking bad Trump sells people on fear, man.
And they don't see it.
Nah, they don't. They don't. There's a lot they don't see about that dude.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point now with me where I think I initially thought when Trump first hit the scene that he was just a New York shyster, the typical New York businessman shyster. And that has evolved significantly over the course of the last 10 years. Like, I think he's far worse than anything people can imagine.
Yeah.
And the main things that I point to is the fact that he has scared every last motherfucker that wearing a MAGA hat into wearing that fucking hat. There's never been any real thing of substance that he has brought to the table to make people buy into something that's practical and good for them. There's not one thing. Now, he made people money, and that's usually the one thing everyone hangs their hat on. He was good for the economy, but we also know what the love of money really is. So it's like, am I really doing the right thing by following this motherfucker? It's just questions that people should probably ask themselves.
Exactly, yeah.
Because he seems to base all of his positives off of mammon instead of something more productive.
Yeah.
And so I just think that if anyone's leading with fear to get you on board, stay far the fuck away from them. Because we're living in very perilous times right now. Yeah. Ain't nobody really got time to fuck around. And that seems to be all that campaign is about, fucking around.
Yeah. Yeah.
You launch your shit on the idea that that the country's being invaded. So your solution to that, I mean, let's keep this 100. An invasion of the country is a pretty serious thing.
That's a serious accusation, right?
Right. So why is it that something as serious as an invasion of the country, your solution to this is a wall?
Seclusion.
So that should already tell you, if you're looking and you're not just looking at the fear aspect of it, It's like, okay, that's a pretty serious accusation, Trump. You got my ear. What's your solution? I'm gonna build a big, beautiful wall. Okay, man, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Right. So off the rip, I wasn't really fucking with it.
Yeah.
Because you got all these complex situations that people are facing, and they're real.
Yeah.
They are real, but they're very complex, very nuanced, and yet your solutions for them seem to be the most basic bitch solutions that you can think of.
Yeah. It sounds like the woke right version of social. The wall seems like the woke right version of social distances, or the mask. It's nothing. It's not really doing anything. It just puts up a show.
Exactly. It's like, listen, you got my ear. You're bringing up all these problems, and they're real problems.
True.
But what the fuck are your solutions?
Mm-hmm.
A wall to the border crisis?
Mm-hmm.
So I already know you're selling me snake oil.
Yeah.
You're already full of shit off the rip.
Mm-hmm.
But he got millions of people to buy into that. That's how he launched his campaign. Coming down the escalator talking about, I'm going to run for president and build a goddamn wall.
And said Mexico was going to pay for it. Don't forget that.
And exactly. That's your solution to a problem as complex as the border issue. Not actually going down there and helping them build infrastructure to actually stay the fuck over there.
Exactly.
But a wall. You want to sell people on this idea that they're being invaded and we need to fight back. Okay. But he's not the first one to do that.
Yeah.
They've all done it. Both sides of the aisle have done it over the years.
Yeah.
And then you look at the next complex problem and the next complex problem, and its solutions for them are always basic bitch solutions.
Mm-hmm.
The solutions that's going to get the eyes and the ears of the average everyday person on it,
mm-hmm.
the average everyday voter, I should say,
yeah,
on it, but not really offering any substantive ways to fix anything.
Yeah,
anything. They want to legislate themselves out of the fucking abortion hole.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't going to work.
Nope.
We're going to make laws to tell people they can't do this thing. Okay. In theory, maybe that does help.
Yeah.
But there are other options like coat hangers. So if they really want them motherfuckers, they're going to have them.
Mm-hmm.
And now we live in a society where you could probably learn how to do that shit online.
Yeah.
So,
true.
I mean, it's like there's that. So how do you really fix the abortion problem? Well, in my estimation, if you're not talking about fixing the moral decline that produces abortion, then you're not talking about fixing abortion.
No, they want to put a Band-Aid on it. They don't think about, hey, how can I... We need stitches, but they want to think about, all right, I got a Band-Aid right now. And like you said, they don't think for them to be 4D chess players, and they only think of that one step. It's not like, all right, once I've done that, then what's plan B? I mean, not plan B. What's the second step? And then what's the third step? Because once you build the wall, people are still gonna want to come over here. People know how to tunnel, especially the Mexicans. But all right, we're not having kids, so it's like we do kind of need to keep having people come in, but not at the rate they are now, because they're coming in unchecked and all this stuff. But there's no real plan past. It doesn't seem to be no real plan past step one. Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, man. I live on the border, right? Yeah. I'm down here in Arizona, like literally on the border. I'm 15 minutes away from Mexico.
Yeah.
Right? If they thought them tunnels were bad now, I mean, if they thought they were bad before, man, just look who they elected as president.
Exactly. Yep.
Tunnel business finna go through the roof now. So, I mean, shit. Now, I joke, but I mean, that's a complex issue. I expect a complex solution.
True.
What I don't want to hear is no fucking wall. And when it comes to the economy, to the moral decline, to all these other things, I want to hear more than the basic bitch solution. Because if you're trying to sell me on that idea, and then half the shit that he said he was going to do, he didn't do. There was shit that he said he was going to do that he couldn't possibly have done.
Yeah.
Because that's just not how politics or your position as president even works.
Yeah.
The thing that concerned me after a while about Trump was that how in the fuck is it I, sitting way the fuck out here, ex-convict in Arizona, how in the fuck is it that I can see exactly what the fuck this mother is? And yet millions of motherfuckers not only can't, but as time has gone on since his presidency, have doubled down and gotten worse on what this motherfucker really is.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to think to myself, well, maybe he's worse than I thought. Maybe he's worse than I thought, man. Because at this point, the MAGA movement seems like it was established with sorcery.
Oh, definitely.
I'm just gonna say it. That shit seems like that's a spell.
Yeah.
Because there's no way in fuck people should be enamored as much as they are with this dude. You got people hanging the fate of the Western world on a 77-year-old New York Democrat.
Exactly. But if it's on that Democrat again.
Democrat spent most of his formative years as a New York City Democrat who just all of a sudden, post 40 years old, and we all know how hard it is for anyone 40 and up to change on any position. It is extraordinarily hard. They have axioms dedicated to this about tigers changing stripes and shit. So I'm supposed to believe that not only post 40, but post 50 and 60, I'm supposed to believe that this lifelong New York Democrat has done a complete 180 on everything he's espoused all the way up until maybe the last 10 to 15 years. I'm supposed to believe that, right? But millions of people did. Okay, maybe there's a chance that can happen. Fuck it. I'll concede that. But then the level that they've elevated this dude, like I said, they've hinged the fate of the Western world, not just the United States anymore, because this is global in their.
Can't hear you.
They hinge the fate of the Western world of a 77-year-old man.
Yeah. That's one of my big.
How does that make sense?
Yeah. That's one of my biggest, I wouldn't say a fear. That's one of my biggest cautions I have about Trump is that the evangelicals and the right, he gives them permission to go to sleep. You know what I mean? If when Trump gets in office, they're going to take their hands off the wheel because they're going to, oh, Trump's got it. He's going to save us. They made an idol out of him. And so I fear when he gets in office, one, I think he's going to flip like the way he was the first 3 years of his thing. I believe it's going to change. And then the right is going to go with it because they've already committed to him. And it's like, well, I don't want to be wrong. And then I like the guy. You know how it's just the same way people look the other way for R. Kelly when people knew he was messing with them underage girls, but he makes good music. So, let's let him do his thing.
Right. Yeah, I think this next 4 years, and make no mistake about it, he's going to win.
Yeah.
He's going to win. He's going to win because that's exactly what the fucking powers that be want. Um, I think that this next 4 years, we're going to see some shit that this country ain't never seen.
Think so?
Yeah, that's my prediction. Is that look, there ain't no real reason for me to even talk around this shit. I think the dude is the Antichrist.
The Antichrist. You putting the big.
That's what I believe.
Yeah. Hey.
And I could be wrong, and God knows I hope I am.
Yeah.
But to see the way the world is wondering after this dude, and wondering after something doesn't necessarily mean you agree with or like it.
Yeah.
But to see the way that the world is wondering after this dude, I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime, right? And I'm a student of history, so I've never really even seen anything like it, historically speaking, except for one other dude. And it's eerie to me. It's eerie as fuck to me. Because it's like I look at him and I see clear as day, like you're a grifter, you're a shyster, you're no good.
Yeah.
But millions of motherfuckers don't. And the left, they see it, but they see it for very false reasons.
Yeah.
They see it for reasons that don't even exist. Like, it's like Russiagate was a lie. It was a hoax. This felony shit, it's not what they think it is.
All the sham, yeah.
So whether you like them or you hate them, it's all built on a fucking sham.
Yeah.
It's not real. But it's got everybody talking about them.
Yeah.
It's got everybody motivated to either be anti or like extremely anti or extremely for. So it's pushed all of society to its furthest point of extremes.
Yeah.
Which is that's never good for any human being to live out there.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like this in my life, and in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole laundry list of just smaller details that if you look into, you start to think to yourself, oh my God, I think this is Damien. So it's one of them things where it's like, bruh, people really need to, I don't know, maybe get right with the Lord or at least look at him and be like, okay, maybe he ain't, but maybe this is the forerunner. Maybe we need to learn from how this dude rose to power. Maybe we need to learn from that so we could at least head off the actual motherfucker at some point. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it's just this is some whole other shit, bro. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. That's all I can say.
Nah, I feel you. Cause like I wouldn't say like I don't vote, and I tell people that. So when they act like, but I tell people I'm like, this is all a show. I've never trusted the system. So I was like, even when you see me posting stuff with Trump, I was like, I wear a Falcons hat. I'm not on the team. Like
right.
I just like watching this. I just like watching the show. And he's like one of my favorite characters on the show. But I would say my biggest litmus test was how, like with everybody, from influencers to politicians, I was like, how did they handle the COVID situation? And like anybody who mishandled that COVID situation, because that was so obvious. If you paid attention in any history, you should have seen that COVID stuff coming and known it was some bull. And to see him commit so much to it and commit so much to the vaccines, I'm just like, there's no way. That's why I said, like, I can't vote. Like, I would want to vote Trump on November, but I was like, I can't because I have a standard that I want to stick to, even if I kind of like the person. Like, if there's a female politician or like one of these, let's say it's like Sonny Johnson. I love Sonny. Hey, Sonny, if you see this, I love you. But and I don't know if she'll ever see it. But let's say she runs for president. I couldn't vote for her because one, I don't believe it. Two, I don't believe women should be in a place in a leadership position. So just off principle, I couldn't vote for her. So it's the same way with Trump. Like I can't vote for you since you failed one of the easiest tests, in my opinion, to pass.
Right. And then look, even if you look at the COVID situation,
yeah.
As of right now, because the COVID situation is what fucked me up at the beginning of 2023, like I was talking about earlier. The East Palestine thing was just kind of like the cherry on the top of the cake.
Yeah.
But it was the COVID situation that I was the most fucked up about, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm believing all the bad press about it, which rightfully I should have, but I'm overblowing it in my head like, yo, this is a fucking this. And I still refer to it as this because I still honestly believe that it was a biological attack put on American citizens.
I agree.
Right? Not only the COVID disease, but the vaccine. So we got hit twice. And I'm thinking to myself then, like, yo, this is grounds for motherfucking tearing shit up. Because if motherfuckers tore shit up over some alleged T-tax, what the fuck are we doing now? That's my mentality. Now, of course, that's an unhealthy way to think, and of course, I corrected myself in that regard. But what if you look at today? What is one of the biggest bones of contention that the right has with the left? That's how the COVID shit was responded to. The biggest bone, one of the biggest bones of contention, I would say, is top three.
Yeah.
Is how freedoms were fucking encroached upon, how, people died as a result of not being able to fucking get the right information, how there's this big Kabbalistic conspiracy to do X, Y, and Z. And I've heard it from, it's just a money grab by the pharmaceutical companies and the politicians, as benign as that, but it's not really benign, but that's like the least of the allegations, all the way up to this was changing the genetic structure of human beings so that they can be inhabited by demons.
Yeah.
I've heard all of that in between. So if this is what you believe, right-wing individuals, then how in the fuck is it that even the people who think that this shit was demonic give Trump a pass for being the father of the vaccine? What kind of sorcery is at work to where people who believe that this was a gateway to hell will be like, but Trump, even though he was the father of the vaccine, is still who I'm going for? If anything is demonic, that's the demonic part.
Yeah, to know good and do what is the Bible says? It said, to him to know to do good and doesn't do it, to him that is sin. Like, and I think it says it's worse than I think it says worse than sorcery, or it compares it to sorcery or something like that. So you right on that line,
bruh. And that's not the only line. That's that. There's that line. There's the fucking red flag laws. One of the things conservatives are the biggest about is 2A and preserving 2A. So how in the fuck is it? Right. So how do you back a dude who was openly on the record saying he is for red flag laws? The biggest encroachment on 2A there is. Your leader says that he's for it, and you still, but it's Trump. Fuck it, MAGA. That's sorcery, bro. That's crazy.
And seeing how, and then they're finally seeing how corrupt the justice system is by how they handle Trump, and then, so you're still going to put it in the justice system hand just because Trump's going to be in office? Like you still have all these judges in all these states and all these senators pushing all these laws. Like just because Trump's getting off, there's still a lot of things that have not changed infrastructurally throughout our government that are still going to be in place and still going to be carried out. You know what I mean?
Right, right. And they talking about like I said, it's a 4-year term. That's all he can get. 4 years. Do you think that he can fix the world as evil as you have portrayed it to be? Do you think a 77-year-old man can fix that in 4 years? Especially after you've highlighted how corrupt the system is, how anti him from everything from the Justice Department to Capitol Hill, all of that shit in between, local judges, all that, district court judge. There's a network of motherfuckers that you've already highlighted that are against this dude. So even if he was to get in office, it would take more than 4 years to dig all that rot out in order for anything that he implements to actually change anything.
I think,
and no one seems to notice this.
No, change. It's going to at least take a generation. It'll take a whole generation.
Yeah. You're going to need people to die out. New people to.
I've been saying, man, once these boomers get out of the way, the boomers got to get out of the way. No offense, Granny, I love you. Boomers got to get out of the way,
bruh. Like the level of expectation that this dude has is like whether I said either side of the aisle, because the left expects him to be Satan incarnate.
Yeah.
And that's out of line. That's just as out of line as how the right expects him to be the Messiah. Like he's neither one of those things. You've both been fooled.
Yep.
And no one seems to notice this. It's like so there's a level of something going on here that I personally believe has become otherworldly in nature. And I don't know if that's for the good or for the bad, but I'm keeping my eye on it. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. I think what had me tricked at the beginning was I was so convinced of that because I know how the system works. I was like, oh yeah, this is how it's gonna go. Hillary's gonna be president. I was sure of it. And then when he won, I was like, wait a minute, Trump won. He was in I was in shock because I was like, we really got Donald Trump as president. And then as time go on, I seen he was doing a few good things here and there. Then I'm seeing how, and I'm like, I know the media's corrupt and they keep attacking him. And so I'm fooling myself into believing it. I'm like, well, shoot, he might be. And I got this guy. It's a more than that in here. It's bothering the mess out of him. But yeah, I'm like, man, he might be a good guy. Like he might be. The Illuminati might have messed up on this one. They might have let one slip through. But like as you said, I have to keep reminding myself. Like you said, he's a liberal Democrat from New York. And who was that? I think it was Ted Cruz told us what it was. He said he has New York morals or New York values or something.
Yeah.
And a lot of us forgot that, and I can't lie and say I did forget it for a period of time. And I think a lot of people either ignored it or forgot it. I think that a lot of them deliberately they didn't just forget, they deliberately, like it was intentional, willful.
Yeah, their problems were magnified to such a degree that they operated off of fear and they let a wolf in the hen house.
Bingo.
They made that big mistake, and now the wolf is here to stay. But he may be worse than a wolf, bro. Because fuck, I mean, like, what else is there to believe at this point? Like, there's a passage in Revelations that I'm sure you might be aware of, where it talks about how the beast to come will devour the whore. The whore being Babylon, debauchery, sin, all that shit. And the beast, who works for the devil, will devour the whore, who also works for the devil. And it says that there will be a great delusion in the end times that would fool even the elect. Right? So what better way to fool the elect than have the beast, Donald Trump,
Yeah.
devour the whore, this world global evil empire
Yeah.
that's dominating in America. What better
Mhm.
way to have him just eat that up and
Yeah.
be like, oh, then everybody would be like, look at what he's done. Look at his
Mhm.
track record. There's no more sex trafficking.
Mhm.
There's no more this. He arrested Fauci. He arrested this evil cabal of individuals in the United States government, which will probably lead to a domino effect of that
Mhm.
shit falling down all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and we're primed for this. Now, like I said, whether or not he does it remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But we're definitely set up for this,
Yeah.
right? Where it talks about the beast would sustain a wound
Mhm.
to his head, and then all of a sudden be resurrected, and the world would be like, hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you could look at that one of two ways. It could
Yeah.
be physical, but it could also be his trajectory on this presidency.
Mhm.
He rose to power, then he was struck down.
Yeah.
Biden takes over,
Yeah.
and now he comes back not only through the election process and all this, but look at all the shit he's facing legally.
Mhm.
You know, he may end up going straight from a cell to the White House.
Mhm.
That's resurrection like a motherfucker, if you're figuratively speaking.
Yeah. Figured it. Yeah. Heck yeah.
So it's just like these are things that people should probably, because like I said, they may not be, but they could possibly be forerunners to those with eyes to see
Yeah.
and ears
Exactly.
to hear.
I like that.
You know,
Yep.
so it's just one of them things, man.
It's crazy because that's similar to a thought I had with a buddy of mine. You know, he stays in the country. We be out there just chilling, and we were talking about like, you know, how everybody's like, oh, we're gonna get a revolution and we're gonna overthrow these powers. And I got to thinking, all right, that's too big. Like I said, when I see too many people joining on one thing, I get cautious. And I'm like, wait a minute, something's wrong here. Let me readjust. Let me try to figure something out. And so I'm like, everybody's thinking they're going to be the revolution that's going to overthrow the cabal. Like even people are putting Elon Musk and all those people on the right. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna topple this thing. And I got to thinking, I was like, if I was the Antichrist, I'm thinking Soros and freaking what's that dude? The guy, I don't want to say his name. It might, well, you know, all the so-called evil guys, Bill Gates.
Right.
Yeah.
The WEF guy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we thinking that they're the ones that are gonna bring the Antichrist, but I was like, if I was as wily as the devil, I wouldn't bring the devil through. I wouldn't bring the Antichrist through those people. That's too obvious. I'll have them rise the ranks on the so-called good side, the so-called revolution, bring them up through that way, and then because the people are once we succeed in our mission, they're gonna willingly give me the power, like you know how they say they did with George Washington, and then so he won't even have to freaking do any more battling. They're gonna willingly take over, and then after a while, he's gonna start enforcing laws, and it's gonna make some people like jump back, but then they're gonna go with it, and then they're gonna start calling evil good, even worse than it is now. They're gonna start calling evil good. They're gonna start calling the murder of Christians a good thing or whatever. And it's gonna be far worse than what it was before.
Yeah. You know, like taking Trump out of the equation. If you read the scriptures and you're familiar with them, that's exactly how he was going to come in. It says, "By peace he shall destroy many."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and genuine peace in this system of things is not real hard to. It's not real hard to paint that perception of. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will actually accomplish peace. Yeah. You just have to convince everyone that you did.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's all. And so the best way to do that is to make it seem like that the war is bigger than they think. Mm-hmm. So that way, when you make even just small accomplishments in the area of bringing peace to that war, people are like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's part of the deception. It kind of plays into this whole notion about those individuals behind you there. Like, people have painted them as this just absolute evil entity.
Yeah, true.
Right? And just on its face, that's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
There's no group of people that's 100% evil.
True.
So just operating on that principle alone, that should give you pause to all the rhetoric around it.
Yeah.
Then if you dig a little further, you say to yourself, well, I mean, shit. These aren't even really the people they say they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so what's really going on here? And that's when you start traveling certain roads where it's like, I see what's going on here. Now, you sit and you fly a flag over land that you say was promised to you, but on that flag is a star that was spoken about by God himself, saying, because you fuck with this star, I'm going to fuck you off. You know, and it's like, well, maybe you're not who you say you are. Maybe none of this is exactly what the fuck it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then I say that, you know, there's prophecy that says that the Hebrew people will be persecuted in the end times because the devil hates them, because they were the portal through which the oracles of God entered into the world of man.
Yeah.
And so that the Hebrew people will be persecuted and Satan will try and devour them and all this other shit, right? And then you say to yourself, like, how do we even get to that place? How do we get there? Like, because right now people have their thing, the Jews.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how do we get to a point where an individual will be able to come along and say, I'm going to wage war on these people and try and eliminate them from the face of the earth, and everybody not only allows for that to happen, but cheers it on?
Yeah.
Well, this is how we get to that point. Because everybody and their mom is looking at Israel, all the crazy shit that they're doing over there right now.
Yeah.
And they feel some type of way about it.
Yeah.
And as that continues to develop and possibly get worse, then people are going to be like, well, now not only do I not feel some type of way about it, but I think something should be done about it. And so here comes the Savior. You know what? You guys are right. This is wrong. We're going to do something about it. We're going to eliminate this evil from the planet, because not only are they doing what they're doing in that country, but come to find out, they've been doing a lot over in this country.
Yeah.
They're at the head of porn, that they're at the head of degeneracy, subversion. They're at the head of this, all these things that have fucked our society up. These people seem to be at the head of it.
Yeah.
So we need to cut the head off the snake.
Yep.
And in doing so, that gives them license to actually go over there and do whatever it is they want to people who are just trying to keep the Sabbath.
Yep.
Be family men, be family women.
Yeah.
The same shit the guy in Germany did.
Boom. You was thinking, I was thinking that too. Yeah. And I think if people were able to just like, because they see the way the world sees Americans, like the way people, like we get called the great Satan and stuff like that, and then they know, like like I'm talking about Americans, we know that like most of us do not act the way our government has, reflected. And so I'm like, if you would just look at them, man, I gotta get this bug. I don't know what it's doing, but if you would just look at them, like how you look at yourself, then you would realize that most of the people, they just want to, like you said, they just want to do those four things. They just want to eat, procreate, raise a family, take a dump, and what was the fourth one?
Be healthy, man. Be clean.
Healthy.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, man. It's like, I don't find it coincidental, and I don't believe in coincidences in the first
Nah,
place.
nah.
But I don't find it coincidental that in the midst of all this, there's this growing sentiment again
Yeah.
of the Jews, the Jews, the Jews.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I have been known to poke fun at those people for a variety of different reasons.
Yeah.
I have banged on the perceived Jews,
Mm-hmm.
but I've always made it clear that the people you think they are, they're not those people.
Bingo. Yep.
They use those people
Mm-hmm.
as a shield.
Mm-hmm.
So they can do their dirt unfettered, and when it all collapses, because it ultimately will,
Yeah.
it's laid at the blame is laid at the feet of the actual people, the people who will suffer from the SBFs and shit of the world.
Yep.
Are the people who live across the street from you, like I said, who are just trying to honor the Sabbath, eat their matzo ball soup, and be left the fuck alone.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that will suffer as a result of this evil cadre of individuals who may or may not be actual Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when you think about it, it's spoke of in Revelations, synagogue of Satan, people who claim they are Jews but are not.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that element will exist in the end times.
Yeah.
And so here we are, yet again, the same shit that happened in World War II is happening now, but it seems to be happening on a level that made World War II look small in comparison.
Yeah, because we got the internet.
Right. It's on the internet. That was just really exclusively a Germany thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if it pops off again, it's going to be far more spread out than just Germany.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be here. It's going to be in other countries in Europe. It's going to be in the Middle East. It's going to be with Russia. It's going to be with a lot of individuals. A lot of individuals are going to be looking to take their pound of flesh from this so-called Israel.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing at all. I think we're being set up for something.
Yeah. We're getting, like you said, we're getting set up, and we're not helping ourselves. And like you said, I think you said earlier, I don't think the Jews are helping themselves trying to get speech laws pushed because in America, because Americans are already on the edge. And then it's like, hey, why are you guys trying to push laws for us for a country that don't have nothing to do with us? Like my fear too, like you said, I think the right is going to overcompensate. The left is already see Israel as a great Satan themselves. It seems. Well, I don't know. They're weird about it too, because a lot of the left is Jewish. I mean, like the Jew, because the Jews here are. I'm not talking about your religion. A lot of them are non-religious. They're just Jews in name only.
Right.
And they seem to vote. They seem to vote Democrat. They seem to support a lot of liberal things too. So
yeah,
my fear is overconversation.
Yeah,
I make jokes about Jews too. But I make jokes about everybody. I make jokes about Jews, blacks, whites, fat, tall, skinny. I like to joke about everybody. That's true equality.
Right. Yeah. I don't have any hatred for Jewish people. I have hatred for people who use Jewish people, just like I have hatred for anyone who uses anyone else.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that usury going on. And it should be paid attention to. Like again, I'll go back to Christians, like Christian nationalists or not Christian nationalists, but just right-wing, God-fearing Christians in this country. They should know better than to buy into this shit. Not because the Bible says, oh, if you curse Jews, I'll curse you, and if you bless them, I'll bless you. Because that's the premise that a lot of them operate off of. Yeah. And that is a true thing that the Bible does say.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what happened to the teachings of there is no Jew or Greek? There is no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What happened to that? What happened to the principles of judge those within the church and let God judge those without it?
Yeah.
like that are on the outside of it. That's an actual verse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happened to those principles? Why do you throw those out conveniently when it benefits you or your political party?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just completely override the word of God because the Republicans said so.
Yeah.
That it doesn't make any sense to me. So, and as far as the Jewish question, well, that's not a question that you should even be engaging in if you're a
Mm-hmm.
Christian,
Mm-hmm.
because that question's already been settled.
Mm-hmm.
So when you find that these right wing Christians on Twitter and whatnot with the God, Christ is King, and all this shit in their Bible, it's like, yeah, that's not a brand of Christianity that the New Testament says should exist. That's weird shit. That's some extra shit. Like,
Yeah.
why are you engaging in these conversations like the Jake Shields and
Yeah.
Elijah Schaefer's? Why are you engaging in these conversations if you're talking about you're leading with Christ and God and family? Well, those questions and all those things have been answered already according to your book. So
Mm-hmm.
either you don't believe the book, which is a problem that you and God have to sort out, and I have nothing to say about, or you're using this shit for an agenda.
Yeah.
And that's where I come in. I'm like, nah, I can't let that rock.
Mm-hmm.
Because while I don't profess to be a Christian, I have the utmost respect for the book.
Yeah.
Because I'm a firm believer that nothing lasts as long as those holy texts, that the Quran, the Torah, nothing lasts as long and has the impact that it has on humanity unless it comes from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's been tons of religions, tons of philosophy that have come and gone, shit that we don't even know about because it was here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
But for some reason, certain things they hit and they stay hitting for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no choice but to believe, because of how life works and because of how human nature is, that these things are above both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because they remain despite what we're going through or what. So you have to respect them.
Yeah.
You have to. You don't have to agree. You don't have, but you have to understand that they come from a place that's bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, you probably shouldn't fuck with them and try and change them because they're here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that's why I have the utmost respect for those texts. That's why I believe them to a certain degree. And I think that the reason things get lost is because we try and change or fuck with or improve upon or these things that exist, these principles, these ideas that exist. We try and fuck with them, and that's where all the contention and the wars and the division comes from.
Yeah,
because we're either misinterpreting them or like we're misinterpreting through ignorance or misinterpreting on purpose.
Yeah.
No. So yeah.
Hey, I know. I don't know when we're gonna end, but before we do, I want you to tell me about your love for cats and tell me about the rescue stuff you involved in, because I know a lot of times when you're in those spaces, I can hear those cats going off in the background. It don't bother me. I don't know if you know. I think I told you yesterday. I used to work at the Humane Society, so I've been used to cats, dogs, all that.
Right. Yeah. I work in rescue. I own a rescue. Mm-hmm. Me and my wife are co-owners and business partners. We own our own rescue. Mm-hmm. We work out of a facility. And for reasons that are obvious, I would prefer to keep the rescue out of the limelight, so I won't be given the name or anything like that. Yeah. There'll be a time and a place for that, but I'm a fairly controversial individual, and the last thing I want is for anything that I say and or do as a internet personality, for lack of a better term, to hurt the chances of finding any of these animals' homes.
Yeah.
So I just kind of keep it real generic as far as, I'm into rescue. And our main goal here is to uh, get animals who are abandoned, people who can no longer care for them, animals that are found and that need homes. We get them the care that they need until we can find them those homes. Um, it's something that I didn't think I would necessarily be doing with my life.
Yeah.
You know, when I was still sitting on the yard, I saw a whole nother trajectory for
Yeah.
my life. But after I got out, uh, an incident occurred that kind of set me on this trajectory,
Mhm.
and I haven't looked back. Um,
Would you mind elaborating on the incident, or is it something you can't speak on?
oh no, I can speak on it. We found a kitten, a little black kitten,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, well, damn, I don't know what to do with this thing, but I didn't want to see it die, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was smaller than it was able to eat.
Oh, okay.
So it had to be bottle fed, and these are all things that I learned off YouTube. And so and because of the success of that, I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to do this shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's far more stories like this than there is not, and I want to help. I want to contribute. And so we started off as fosters for another rescue.
Yeah.
We just didn't like the way some of them operated,
Mm-hmm.
and so we were like, fuck it, let's just do it ourselves. Let's start our own rescue,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we did. Um, and so we work with a lot of different rescues out here, and but we, like I said, we own and operate our own. Um, we've been up and running now for about 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, like I said, there's nothing more rewarding and at the same time more heartbreaking we do. And I don't devote much of myself to anything else. Um, Part of the reason why I can be as effective, I guess, as I am of saying the shit that I do online is because that shit's not my life. Like
Yeah.
my fight, my fight and my devotions are to rescue. I
Mm-hmm.
engage with politics, I engage with social issues, and I love to see those things improve. And I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to have a hand in that to some degree. But at the end of the day, my life is rescue.
Yeah.
And that's my motivation for getting up in the morning. That's what I do, you know. And there's myself personally, there's nothing more rewarding for me
Yeah.
than to be able to get an animal that had no shot at living
Yeah.
and guiding them through all the way to a home where they can live a happy life. And it helps the animal, it helps myself, and
Mm-hmm.
it helps the people who adopt those animals. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're actually contributing a little bit of light into their life. And so, you know, that's just my thing. You know,
Yeah.
I love them to death. They drive me fucking nuts most of the time, but I love them to death. And you know, I love it, man. So
No,
yeah,
that's pretty cool, man. Because like I told you, I work humane side. I like seeing that stuff too. Is the rescue? That's nonprofit.
yeah. We're a nonprofit. We 501c3 nonprofit
Yeah.
organization. Fully official. This ain't no just, oh, we're doing this. Nah, we're a business, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're out here doing it, man. I think that some people should devote something to themselves outside of themselves. I've chosen animals, but I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's always rewarding to devote yourself to something outside of yourself.
Yeah.
That's actually practical too,
Yeah.
not just some idea that some politician sold you, but something
Yeah.
that's actually making a difference. You know.
Yeah. So, what would you say the biggest lesson you learned since taking over that type of endeavor that's helped you? That's helped you in life too.
Patience.
Patience.
Patience is one. The fact that you're not going to be able to control every instance.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, man, especially with kittens, bro. Them motherfuckers are fragile.
Yeah.
They are fragile. Like puppies are robust. They're
Mm-hmm.
fragile too, but they're more robust.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't even know this existed. There's a thing called fading kitten syndrome, and I didn't know that existed until I got into rescue. It's just where the kitten will just decide, I don't want to live anymore.
Really?
And you can't do anything about it. It won't eat, it won't thrive, and it'll just die.
Man.
And there's really nothing you can do to reverse the course on that. Once they start fading, that's it.
Yeah.
And you got to just kind of stand by and let their last few days be as comfortable and as pain free as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And that shit, like I said, it's heartbreaking. It's just
Yeah.
because sometimes you grow attached to them
Mm-hmm.
and shit. I mean, I have quite a few cats that are pets, and all of them are because they're foster fails.
Mm-hmm.
What we just took them off the market and like, nah, we love this motherfucker too much. He's ours
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And man, I can't tell you how many times I've had to, go out back and shed a few tears behind these
Mm-hmm.
motherfuckers. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's probably the biggest things I've learned is that patience and that you're not going to be able to control every situation.
Mm-hmm. That's
Mhm.
cool. Well, what is it? Like it seems just listening to you, it's like, man, at times the highs are so high and the lows are so lows. It's like there's some joyous moments and some sorrowful moments. And it seems like you're like I would say the middleman to help them get into a better situation. So what's
Yeah.
something you could tell people that listen to this that will help prevent the problem that's being caused that you're coming in to help solve?
Spay and neuter. Spay and neuter your pets, man.
Yeah.
Um, just make sure that you're responsible in caring for them
Mm-hmm.
like a child. If you're not ready, just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I know a child is a lot more easy to make that call with because that's a lot more responsibility than an animal. So people will make frivolous choices as far as, oh, I want this dog or I want this cat or and just be more responsible because
Mm-hmm.
rescue rescues are overrun, overtaxed.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no love in the industry. Like people don't really donate and support.
Mm-hmm.
The good portion of how we fund this is right out of our own pockets, and
Mm-hmm.
and we have very few donations. And I know there'll be a time when that will change.
Yeah.
But until that time, we sustain, and it's fine. But
Yeah.
um, the main thing is that people like abandon animals and they
Mm-hmm.
and they or they get animals that they couldn't really care for in the first place, so they surrender them to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to say, like, spay and neuter is one, and two is just be responsible before you even make the choice. Like, here's a statistic that people don't really think about, but once you hear it, you're like, well, that makes sense. But the highest number of uh, cats that are surrendered
Mm-hmm.
are usually towards the end of November and December.
Yeah.
And that's the main contributor to that is Halloween
Mm-hmm.
because people want black cats and they get black cats for their children.
Yeah.
And then they realize, oh, the kid's not taking care of it the right way, or this is not what I really wanted,
Mm-hmm.
yada yada. And then so they surrender them. So towards the end of November and all through December, we just have this significant influx of black cats that people are like, we just couldn't do it. We can change our mind. And it's just like, man, why didn't you think of this beforehand? This is not a hard thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I would say is just spay and neuter is one, and two, just be more responsible in your decision making when you decide to take these these animals on because they are a life.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say so I take it you're a cat person over a dog person, or do you like dogs, or you want to like what would you call yourself?
No, I'm a dog person through
Oh
and
yeah.
through. I didn't even really have time for cats until I started doing this, and now I love them.
Yeah.
And they are what we get the most of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I have a whole new respect for them motherfuckers that I didn't
Yeah.
have before because those things are machines, bro.
Yeah.
We're lucky they don't get as big as dogs. I'll just say
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah. Just their
We are lucky.
reflex speed is crazy. Like their reflexes are faster than the Cobra Strike. I get caught on TikTok and in the Instagram reels, and I'll be looking up facts for goddamn cats. Cats are amazing. They're temperamental like women, though, in my opinion. But
They are. They
they
are.
are they are
Yeah,
they are amazing creatures.
they are. Yeah. So I got a whole new respect for them. I'm still a dog person because
Yeah.
you can like cats. They get a bad rap. Well, they don't love you and they're independent. And yeah, a lot of that's true. I've met so many that are just the exact opposite of that. It's not even funny. We had three here.
Hmm.
Every time they see a human being, here they come.
Yeah.
So but dogs are a different thing. They're like they're a friend. They
Yeah.
can become that.
Hmm.
And so I'll always be a dog guy over a cat guy,
Yeah.
but I got a whole new respect for them cats, man. I'll tell you that.
That's what's up. Do you is it only cats and dogs, or do you take in like lizards, rats, bunnies, that type
Oh,
of?
we'll take in quite a few different species. We haven't had an opportunity for a lot of them, but we have had goats. We've had rabbits, ferrets, hamsters, things of this nature. Um, we'll take in anything pretty much that we have the ability to care for.
Yeah.
And then there's certain things that we don't even think we have the ability to care for. But if someone were like, I really want to surrender this emu,
Yeah.
we'd figure it out. So,
Yeah.
uh,
That's pretty cool.
yeah,
Like my cousin, I had a cousin passed away last year, and he was an animal lover. Like he had snakes, iguanas, and it was too one. I don't have the room for it, but two, they told me too late. They were like, "Hey, you want to come get these iguanas? Because they grow like what 6 foot, 8 foot,
yeah,
total tail." And
yeah.
so I wasn't able to take it in. Like I love that type of stuff. My wife, she's a little skeptical when it comes to that stuff. But my kids, my son wants a cat and my daughter wants a dog. And I told her we're not going to get one while we're staying in these apartments. We'll get one when we move into a house, hopefully in the country. Got to persuade my wife. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've been an animal lover. I think I told you yesterday. I had become numb working in the in the operating room at the Humane Society. You see so many animals die after a while. It's just like darn, like
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've always been one to like, hey man, I love me. If you got a cat or a dog at your house, yeah, they'll probably love me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm not one of these fucking weirdos that think, oh well, yeah, these are my children. I'm not
yeah,
that guy. Like
yeah,
I don't really fuck with that guy. Like that's weird to me.
yeah,
But I also know that just being indifferent towards them is what causes the problems that we have to sit here and try and fix in this
yeah,
in this rescue. And it's work and it's time and it's worth it,
yeah,
especially for a person like myself. I spent all my good years in prison. I didn't get to have children.
mhm,
So not comparing them to children, it's just that I'm able to actually care for something outside of myself through this avenue. So I actually enjoy it in that regard. I'm 46 now, so children are just not. I listen. I respect. I respect the outlook.
yeah,
I respect the outlook of people who are like family and have children, and I
yeah,
agree with all of that.
yeah.
But I agree with that for you.
Hmm.
I have never wanted children, bro.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
it was initially because I know me. I'm far too damn irresponsible, and I was far too into me when I
yeah,
was younger. And
yeah,
now I'm just too old. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not trying to raise nothing new at 46. Fuck all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that train passed me by. I'm not anti kid.
Yeah.
I'm just anti kid for me,
Yeah.
and I think that works for me. I
Yeah.
wouldn't espouse that for everyone. I wouldn't be that guy.
Yeah.
I think people should have families and should make
Mhm.
children and should have that lineage, but
Yeah.
that's not just like anything in this world. There's nothing that's 100% across the board.
True.
So for me, I'm good. I'll just settle for this. You know what I mean? I'll be able to settle for this and like I said, care for something outside of myself and devote myself to something
Yeah.
bigger and that's good enough for me and my wife. We're good.
Yeah. I had a question pop up in my head, but I can't remember the woman's name. I think she was a senator, and she got into a big controversy because she put in her book that I think she had a dog and it was unruly, and she took it out back and shot it. You remember who that was?
Yeah, Christy Nome.
Christy No. Do you think she was in the
Yeah.
wrong for that? Because I'll get my
No,
opinion after I hear you.
no,
No,
no, I don't
plain and
think she
simple.
was at all. No, she wasn't wrong for that. You know, um, she said that her reasoning was the main reason was, and people like to paint it as, oh, she said she didn't like the dog in the first place. Well, listen, the dog showed aggression towards a human being.
Mm-hmm.
There's not many options for that.
Yeah.
There just ain't. You
Mm-hmm.
can't surrender it and expect it to go to somebody else because a rescue, and I can speak from experience,
Yeah.
a rescue is not going to take that dog and rehome it because it's a liability issue.
Exactly.
Right. So the dog was, if it once it starts to show aggression towards humans, there's
Mm-hmm.
very few options at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Killing it is not the only option, but you can sit and invest money and time and try and retrain and redirect the dog, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not a for sure thing either.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it is just an animal.
Boom.
And as much love as I have for animals,
Mm-hmm.
I still recognize that they are just animals.
Yeah.
To elevate them higher than that is paganism to me.
Yeah. Nah, true. That's 100%.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
because I agree with you 100%. That was the sentiment I had. I didn't post about it because it was annoying. I know how I'm being racist. I know how white people are about dogs. I think black people a little bit more. It is what it is about it. That's just the way growing up. That's just the way I've seen it. But
Right.
yeah, when I saw the right acting like that, and I'm like, well, like you said, it was aggressive towards the human. And then she took care of she took it up. You think it was easy for her to shoot her own dog? Like it's not easy
Yeah.
to like most of them would have took it if they wanted it. If most of them they would have put their responsibility off on a veterinarian or somebody, or they would have took it to a shelter. Because like you said, I worked in a shelter. If it bites, they're not going to give it a chance. They're
No.
gonna there's gonna be a sign put on the gate, and in like a couple days, it's gonna be euthanized.
Yeah.
It's just simple as that.
Yep. Its only real chance is a rescue.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, rescues are going to tell you, nah, because if I rehome this dog to a new family and it bites one of them, that's a liability issue.
Yeah.
So they're just not going to want to take it on.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be very lucky and have to do a lot of work to find a rescue that's willing to take that dog on, redirect its attitude, and do all the things necessary for them to feel safe then at that point to adopt that dog out.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's few and far between to find a rescue that's willing to devote that much work because, again, we are not subsidized. We operate 100% off of donations or the money that we put into it.
Yeah.
So what are we going to then find the trainer to try and train this out?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then risk it and adopt it out, and it hurts a child.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's just that not only is that a liability issue, but that's also something you got to live with because, so it's just one of them things, man. Like highly aggressive dogs, we usually tell the owners who are trying to surrender them, your best bet is to euthanize. Humanely euthanize the dog because
Yeah.
that's the only real option at that point.
Yeah. And that's just they give it a well. Do they still do the way with the shot? Yeah, that's what they did when I worked there. When I was 20 years ago. That's crazy to be able to say that. But yeah, they if it's aggressive, they put that muzzle over it, grab that arm, see that vein, put it in there, and then man, they go out quick too.
They do. They do.
That's why I'm saying like people don't. I don't think a lot of people see that. That's why like for me to even hear her say she did it herself. I'm pretty sure she's had some attachment to that dog before she even did it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and even if she didn't, so fucking what? It's her property. She can do whatever she wants with it. You know?
Yeah.
Dogs, animals are considered property in this country.
It was a working dog, right? So it's basically a tool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But, you should never lose people should never lose sight on the fact that these are animals. And at the end of the day, while they are lives and while they are precious and while we love them, we should not elevate them higher than what they really are. Because again, that starts to borderline on paganism to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it is what it is.
Yeah. So before we get out of here, you got any thing you need to ask me or want to ask me? I know ain't too much going on in my life that's interesting.
How'd you enjoy yesterday, man? Your birthday?
Man, I loved it. You know, like I said, I don't party no more. Like when you do all the stuff when you're young, peace and quiet is all you really desire.
Yes.
Like I'm like, hey, as long as I ain't got nobody in my ear, you know, yapping, I'm good. Just my wife made me that beautiful tres leches cake. I enjoyed it.
I seen that thing, man. I was like, ooh wee.
Yeah. She did a thing. It was her first time. She was nervous. Like, I think she was trying before it got to it. I told her months in advance. I was like, this is what I want for my birthday. I don't ever want for much. So I told her, and she kept trying to talk her way out of it. She's like, you sure you don't want me to buy one? I was like, nah, it means more if it comes from you. And so she went and got the stuff Monday, made it, and had it ready by Wednesday. It was good. And like I told her, she knows this. I say, like, I'm gonna be honest, ladies who watching this. For the most part, your guy, he probably only want 3 things. If you give him these 3 things, he'll probably be satisfied, unless he's needy. He wants something to eat, put something in his belly. No diddy. He wants peace. He don't want, don't be on his head. If he got something to nag about, wait till after. And sex. If he gets those 3, his stomach full and his nuts empty, man, he'll be straight. That's how I see it. My wife knows.
True. That's true, ladies. And listen. One of those tends to fall off the older he gets. So really, it's only like 2.5 things.
Yeah.
So but yeah, man. Hey, yeah. Keep doing your thing, bro. I love your content, man. Just keep doing your thing. I really, really, really love the fact that you started doing this podcasting. I've tinkered around with the idea a few times. Maybe I will one day, maybe I won't. Again, like I said, my main motivation every day is rescue. So I put more of that into more myself into that than anything else.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll start fucking around like that, and I tune into my spaces. If you're watching this, tune into my spaces every Tuesday with Hotep Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
One of these days I'm gonna have to fucking figure out a name for that thing.
Yeah.
But until then, it's just spaces with me and Hotep Jesus. Every Tuesday at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 my time. It's right after the Grift Report, where I usually frequent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm somewhat of a mascot for that show. I call in, but like damn near every day I call in and give my takes and shit. And they're not for the weak of heart, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Woke
But
white
yeah,
people
man.
beware.
Huh?
Woke right. I said woke right. Beware.
Woke right, beware. Listen, if you're faking the funk on
Yeah.
any goddamn level,
Yeah.
if you're faking the funk, no matter what you believe, and I catch wind of it,
Yeah.
I'm coming for you.
In
Right?
fact, I seen it. I done seen it. He'll do it. He ain't scared.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on blast, and I'm gonna test you, and I'm gonna see if you really about that shit. Because I'm always on the lookout for insurgents, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to sniff out the insurgents.
Yeah. You got to tell them because it says Goldstein right here. You got to tell them where to find you because if you do at Goldstein on Twitter, it's a Jewish guy. So you got
Yeah,
to tell them.
you can follow me at Hotep Goldstein, one word. Uh, you can also find me on Instagram at Hotep Goldstein. Also on Facebook at Hotep, I think underscore Goldstein there. I don't really too much fucking post on Facebook anymore because they ain't worth a damn.
Yeah.
But from time to time, I'll pop in and just be like, yo, what up?
Yeah.
Those are pretty much the only three platforms that I fuck with: Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
All right.
You ain't gonna really find me outside of there. I don't do the TikTok thing anymore. I just,
Yeah.
just that shit's gone to shit. So it's like
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, those are the three places you can find me. At Hotep Goldstein on Twitter is the main one.
That's what's up, man. It was great having you, man.
Hey man, it was great doing it. Hey, anytime you want to tap in with me again, I'm more than happy
Yeah.
to do it. And
Yeah.
I'm wishing you the best of success on this endeavor, man. I really hope this fucking blows up for you, bro.
Hey, thanks, man. This definitely can't be the one and only time, man. I definitely gotta have you on here again.
Oh, for sure, man, for sure.
All right, well, I see you, man. You have a good afternoon, man.
You too, man. Have a good evening out there.
Take it easy.
All right, bro.